I'm like, actually, I am 33 miles directly east of the Imperial Beach Pier.
Oh no shit.
Yeah.
Dude, so
Dude,
yeah.
used to be. I mean, I was president of the Tijuana Shit Surfers Club, but it's
I
I've
know
dude, I had to resign and disband the club, dude. I actually, unfortunately, I haven't surfed IB in like 2 years. And
no way.
that hands down, man, Imperial Beach is the best beach break and sandbars in San Diego County. Hands down, Imperial Beach is the best sandbars in San Diego County. Unfortunately, it's full of poop. Um, and it's worse than it's ever been. I've got pictures, I've got some photos of epic barrels at IB in like chocolate milk water.
Oh my
But
god.
but like
Brown
like
room.
like I was taking the pictures like in inner barrel shots of chocolate milk tubes.
Oh my
But
god, dude.
it is so bad now that you can smell the sewage all the way back from the 905,
No way.
which is almost 5 miles from the beach, and you can smell it. The
And
last
when
time
you're
I
like
went to
at the
surf,
beach, it's super poopy. Like you can
oh, it's
smell it.
so bad.
Oh
It's
my
so
god.
bad. Yeah, yeah. They're finding that like there are levels of it's like arsenic and something else that is a byproduct of decomposing poop. And like the levels in the air are 200 times what the EPA allows is safe.
How does it not like go up further north? You know what I
Oh,
mean?
it
Like
does.
it
Oh, it
does. Yeah.
does.
So it's
Coronado's
kind of
been
everybody.
Coronado's been shut down for over a year. IB has actually had the signs up for three
uh,
years now.
and they're just
Coronado
like a permanent thing. It's pretty much just like don't surf here. It's not a great
in
idea.
Yeah, Imperial
Wow.
Beach, like as soon as anytime you get in the water at IB, the lifeguard comes up and says, "Hey, like get in the water at your own risk. If you need help, lifeguards are not entering the water to save you."
Oh my god.
It's bad, but it goes all the way up. It's just it kind of dissipates, and
Mm.
the everybody up north doesn't get it as bad. But
Yeah,
even at OB, I went out at OB a few times in the summer, and even
mm,
that water was pretty poopy.
dude. Yeah, I was trying to think because I'm like one beach up from OB pretty much, and
Yeah,
like it's I don't see how it wouldn't. You're at least getting some particles, some poopy
no, it does.
particles.
We have so typically the northern Pacific Ocean current where we're at on the Pacific coast
Yeah,
runs north to south,
right.
but with that elbow in the coast of California where Point Conception is,
Hmm.
in that area, which is all of Southern California, we have an eddy where
Uh,
the current goes from south to north.
dude.
And so it's all the poops going north. It's just it's spreading out.
Yeah,
Which is in IB,
rolling.
it's dumping right there.
That's so gnarly, dude. Well, let me introduce you first, and then I want to talk about your background. But I'm Jordan Ryan, founder of Wind and Sea Coffee, and welcome to the Mind Body Mushroom, the podcast where we explore the magic of psychedelics, plant medicine, and all the ways you can naturally upgrade your health and well being. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome our newest ambassador to the Wind and Sea team, Branden Vriens. Branden's story is nothing short of inspiring. Former Navy petty officer, first class, and skilled EOD tech, his journey has taken him from defusing bombs to co-founding Los Bigotes, a viral surf and skydiving brand that embodies the adventurous spirit of veterans and thrill seekers around the world. These days, Branden has embraced a new role as maintenance technician, where he's perfecting the art of keeping things running smoothly and aspiring to channel his inner icon, Homer Simpson. But that's not all. Branden is also a talented traditional cowboy artist, using his skills to keep the legacy of cowboy arts alive. if that weren't interesting enough, ChatGPT is so funny, dude. He's a self-proclaimed conspiracy theorist extraordinaire and a dedicated chicken farmer. For the record, that's all he does to the chickens.
Yes.
I can't wait to dive into his eclectic journey, his creative pursuits, and his unique take on life. Brandon, welcome to the pod.
Thank you. Thank you.
Uh,
Um, no, that was a great intro. I am learning how to be a Homer Simpson, which is I work at a power plant. Um, right now I'm the maintenance mechanic. Okay, I'm not a janitorial husbandry maintenance guy. I am a maintenance mechanic. Lets me get my hands on everything before I start beep booping all the buttons. I play the role of Homer Simpson, but I very much look like Ned Flanders. So
fact.
fact.
That's
Yeah.
a fact. So where'd you grow up, Brandon?
Orange County, California, Yorba Linda, home of the birthplace of Richard Nixon and home of of Richard Nixon Library.
R.I.P. Kind
Humble
of a big
brag.
deal. Kind of a big
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah. Grew up on the last natural section of the Santa Ana riverbed in Orange County. So I don't know, that's kind of special.
Is that
Santa
where
Ana,
like Santa Ana is? Like I've been through Santa Ana before.
so I was east of that. Yorba Linda is like I was literally grew up on the border of Orange County and Riverside County off the 91 freeway. We were the last stop before you hit Riverside. So
Mm,
we were East Orange County. Um,
right in that line.
yeah, yeah, like it was splitting hairs when you're like, I'm from Orange County. Like you're Gypsum Canyon, Green River, you're like a half mile away from border there. Yeah, grew up in Yorba Linda, had three brothers, second
Oh,
oldest. All of us learned how to surf at a really young age. Been surfing since I was 5.
oh, shit.
All four of us were played water polo in high school, competitive swimmers.
Did you go to
And
college
then,
before? Go to the Navy?
I got a 4.5 year degree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got an associate's. I'm going to college now, finishing my degree, and didn't play sports in college. Just got the general ed done. Took my time.
What were you looking for? Like, what were you studying? And then,
Dude, I didn't want to go to
whatever.
college. I
Yeah,
wanted a
yeah.
job. Um, Parents were very much on that train of like you're going to school.
Uh-huh.
So I went to community college
Yeah.
for too many years. Um,
4.5.
4.5. Yeah. I took some cool classes though. Like I was trying to prove a point. They're like, I
Yeah.
don't want to be in school. So like
Right.
history of rock and roll, surfing, you know, all kinds of environmental sciences, a lot of hippie classes. I did it
Uh-huh.
4 years to get a degree in liberal arts.
Yeah. So that's when the Navy came in. I'm
That's when the
assuming.
Navy came in. Yeah. So then decided to do that. Joined the Navy. Came in 2012. Originally came in to be a SEAL.
Yep.
My younger brother and I both went to Buds.
Oh, no way.
Um,
I didn't know that.
he actually got in before I did. I after high school I took a few year hiatus from exercise and fitness,
Uh,
and I surfed and smoked a lot of marijuana for 4 or 5 years. That was what I did. I had hair down to here. I looked like Tony Alva. I surfed 4 to 5 days a week, and worked in my free time. And then
sounds great.
yeah. But anyways, yeah. So he got his contract before I did, but we both came in to go to Buds. Um,
Do you guys class up at all? Like close to each other or anything like that? You
Yeah,
know?
we're pretty close, but he was
Yeah.
before me, so he was
Yeah.
class 296. I was class 300.
Oh, you were in
Um,
300? No way, dude. I was in 304, and I remember guys from 300.
oh yeah, dude. And they built up class 300 so much, like you're the Spartan
Uh-huh.
class, or
Uh-huh.
whatever.
Yeah, right.
I got rolled out of 300 in
Yeah.
like after the second week,
Yeah.
and then I went into 301, made it through Hell Week. I got med dropped after Hell Week,
Mm.
and
Oh, dude, really? That
well,
sucks.
to be fair,
Sure.
I kept getting in trouble. I kept getting caught for all the stupid shit.
Mm.
Uh, I got
Like
caught with
extra
extra
gear and stuff like that. Yeah.
every time,
Yeah.
dude. Every
Yeah.
time. Um, you know, they just had enough of it. And
Mm.
the warrant officer was like, if I ever see you in my office again for anything, like you're gone. Well, then I made it through Hell Week, crushed it. My boat crew didn't lose a single person. We came
Oh,
in first
yeah.
or second place on every relay, like crushed. We crushed it.
Yeah.
But I was hurt and I showed up in his office and he
Oh,
was like, what I tell you? So I got dropped, and then my friend, I won't name his name because he's still in. He was actually classed up with my brother in 296 and then rolled into my class in 301.
oh wow.
We became good friends. We became best friends.
Yeah.
We both got dropped together, med drops. And I remember we're sitting on that bench by the instructor office. And I was like, Bart, that's not his real name. What? It's not his real name. I was like, dude, what are we gonna do, Bart? And he's like, damn, I don't know, cuz. We go EOD. I was like, what's EOD, man? He's from two dirt roads in South Carolina,
Hmm.
called Fork. And it's literally two dirt roads and a convenience store. That is his town. So I was like, Bart, what are we gonna do? He's like, we're gonna go EOD, cuz. I'm like, well, what's EOD? He goes, damn, I don't know. I just heard they're badass and they run with the frogs. So we got dropped from Buds on a Thursday. Friday we had to check into the SAT barracks.
Yeah.
Monday we went back to Buds Medical and made them sign our medical records as fit for full. Even though like we couldn't walk, we were still
Right.
bleeding, like we were still hobbling, and we put on our dress whites, went over to the EOD Group 1 building, knocked on the Commodore's door.
Oh wow.
Um, Dress whites, we've got blood coming out of our armpits and our waistbands from chafing. And he answers the door and he's like, like, how can I help you guys? And, sir, damn Seaman Flowers, Seaman Friends, we want to go EOD. And he's like, what kind of joke is this? Like, who are you?
Mm.
Where'd you come from? Does anyone know you're here? And we told him, like, we got dropped from Buds on Thursday. We just made it through Hell Week. We want to go EOD. He's like, cool, show up tomorrow and you'll do a PST.
Oh my
And
God.
4 days out of Hell Week, took a
Oh,
PST.
yeah.
We passed. They wrote us contracts, and off to dive school we went
Dude,
to.
that's incredible that like he was receptive to that because dude, like maybe in the next three classes some shit went down, but it was so anyone that like didn't make it through Buds and was looking at other programs, and specifically I remember the EOD program being like, this isn't your fucking plan B. Like,
Yeah,
get out of my, they were, there was all these guys that were like hoping to maybe strike EOD and do that, and they were just like, no, like you're gonna go do some time at the fleet, you're gonna go pay your dues, and yeah, then we'll see you then. But I've
yeah,
always thought it was just kind of like a waste because you get a lot. I mean, the attrition rate of Buds is what it is, and it doesn't mean that everyone that doesn't make it like doesn't
yeah. It doesn't
wouldn't
mean
do
you
well in the
shouldn't.
program. Right, exactly. So it's just kind of like a bad use of talent. Like you're getting all these people, a lot of them have college degrees, a lot of them, are fit, they're motivated, they want to be there, and that they're clearly have their shit together enough to even get to Buds, and then just, because it is what it is, they
Yep.
kind of like but it just
I
seemed
think
not
what
the best
happened
for me.
was like Bart and I were kind of an anomaly. I mean, like we told nobody. We were
Yeah, that's an
supposed to
interesting
be
way of
checked
doing it.
in with the broke dicks, and we
Right.
snuck out, just went over there, and I think they kind of respected the fact that we broke every rule to just be there. Um, and we had they at that time they told us like if you hadn't made it through Hell Week, like you absolutely wouldn't be considered.
Yeah,
And
I'm
there
sure
were a
that made a
couple of
difference.
guys who followed in after us,
Yeah.
and we had vouched for them while we were there, and
Uh-huh.
then they just when they were just became total turds
Oh no.
while we were mud pupping at group, and so then group was like, "You're the last guys we're ever
Oh
going to hook
shit.
up
Yeah.
with."
So
Because
that's
I know
crazy.
like 302, 303, like those
Yeah.
guys were trying to do it and
Yeah.
not having any luck.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was my experience.
Yeah, but I mean, it was totally, man, like, I still don't know how we pulled that off. Because, like, I remember it was the group command master chief. It was Master Chief Beimer. He's retired
Oh,
now.
wait, Master Chief Byron? Is that what you said?
Beimer.
Oh, Bymer. No, I thought it was somebody
Yeah.
else. Good.
He's retired now, retired several years ago, but like he opened the door and I remember he was like looking around like who's fucking with me? Like
Yeah,
is
yeah.
someone where did you come? Does anybody know you're here? We're like, "Nah, we showed up, dude." Yeah, we're like
Bleeding.
and I remember they made us do a PST and we're
Oh.
like, "Okay, 07," and he closed the door and man, I wanted to punch Bart in the face so bad.
Yeah, like fuck.
That wasn't even the worst of it, though. We had no idea that EOD was actually the bomb squad.
Oh, really?
We did not know what we signed up for. We knew
Oh
that it
shit.
was still special operations.
Right.
They get to run with the frogs and they're
Yeah.
attached and do cool stuff. That was all we knew.
No
It
way.
took us until so you go to dive school first. That's 8 weeks of dive school. And again, there you're in Panama City,
Yeah.
warm water. Dude, it's super relaxed. Like you're just diving all the time. You're always in silkies and a tank top. Like life's chill. You just run a lot and you dive. And you're in Florida, Panama City. It's great. Nobody mentioned diffusing bombs.
Like, what are we diving for? Like, I
So,
don't know, man.
yeah, bro, they're teaching us like how to
Teaching a
locate
fish.
things with sonar, and we're like, ah, cool, all
What do
right,
you
this
think
is
we're
cool.
finding?
Yeah,
And we'll
yeah,
tell us next week.
dude, I'm gonna be a treasure hunter. Uh, and then, bro, we got to EOD school, and like day 5 of school, you do 4 days of like in doc and paperwork and classroom, and then day 5, that Friday, you're on the demo range, and they hand you a stick of dynamite and blasting caps, and they're like, cool, we're going to learn how to use explosives today.
Hmm.
They introduce you to live demos super fast.
Wow.
So we were stoked. Second month of EOD school, we're back in the classroom. And I remember it was like it was before breakfast, and the instructor was like, okay, and then tomorrow we're going to teach you guys how to walk down range and do a recon on live ordnance and
Hmm.
how to render safe procedures. And that was when it hit. And I remember Bart and I looked at each other and we're like, render safe procedures, live ordnance? And they release us to breakfast and we're walking. And I'm walking, hands in my pockets, head down, like, what the fuck did we sign up for? Like, he just said render safe ordnance. Like, we're gonna defuse bombs. And I'm thinking in my head, Bart's like, hey, damn, cuz, like, why you so sad? I was like, Bart, did you hear what he said? Did we sign up for the fucking bomb squad?
I
He's
don't
like,
think we're
oh
looking for
shit,
treasure,
fuck,
dude. I
you
don't
heard
think
that
we're going to be
too?
treasure hunters.
He's like, damn, cuz, I heard that too, man. I don't want to do no fucking bombs, man. I want to kick in doors and shit, cuz. I was like, bro, what did you get us into? He's like, I don't know, man, but hey, I tell you what, if you want to quit, I'll walk with you to the office. I was like, I'm not going to fucking quit, you
Yeah.
idiot. Because you won't
God.
quit behind me. He's like, I
Like,
know, but I'll be there with you when you do.
and your ass on the back.
Ah!
Oh my God.
But yeah, dude, we had no idea what we were getting into.
Hmm.
Like, honest to God. And we didn't. I mean, we didn't ask either, but we were just like, cool. We're not on a ship.
Yeah.
We're not
Oh.
undesignated seamen. Like, we're learning stuff.
Hmm.
Cool. We're doing something.
Right.
Yeah, and then yeah, we made it all the way through school together.
Which was a guy named Schnackenberg close to you in class at all? Like he was in 304 with me and eventually became EOD, but he probably now I'm thinking about it, probably later because he had to go do the whole,
yeah,
thing.
yeah. No, I don't
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
that name.
So you finished training and then what was kind of next for you?
Um, so EOD school after training, I got stationed in San Diego. Again, super lucky. For our class, we were told there are two spots available in San Diego. Everybody
Wow.
else is going overseas.
Uh-huh.
Um, Two of us in the class were married, and our spouses lived in California. So we
Hmm.
both got the San Diego spots. I ended up at Mobile Unit 11 in Imperial Beach, and that's where I stayed for the remainder of my career.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so I did a total of 10 years. Um, I would say 7.5 of them were at the mobile unit. The first 2.5 years was like buds in EOD school.
Nice. Where did when people go overseas, they get stationed overseas, is it like just kind of wherever, or is there like a big like EOD spot like in Rhoda or something like that?
Yeah, it's Rota,
Oh, is it
Spain,
really?
and Guam.
In Guam. Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Guam, Spain, Virginia, California, the four big Navy spots.
And the mobile units are pretty much what is going to go with the SEAL team, right? Like, are there other billets that you could take as an EOD where you're not really doing anything sexy?
Um, yeah. So the way EOD works is it's just our mission set is so broad.
Right.
Um, it's kind of like the fire department, right? The fire department gets hit with like the cat in the tree, the bees,
Mhm.
hazmat spills, uh, bee swarms, like fire
And medical
department.
shit and medical like yeah,
Yeah, and medical calls.
yeah,
EOD is like the redheaded stepchild of the Navy, where
yeah.
whatever they don't have anybody specifically designated to, they throw to us. So it's underwater and on land, and it's the whole gambit of like fireworks, underwater mines, biological, chemical warfare, nuclear weapons, improvised devices.
They still
Um,
training the like dolphins and shit. Is that like a thing?
that program became civilianized, so
Ah,
the military is no longer doing that. It's still there, but it's fully ran by civilians. But the EOD, the way it works is like we have so many mission sets. So like this platoon is going to be strictly to underwater. This platoon is going to be your surface response call stuff. So they'll go to like Bahrain, and they'll be the response for when Tiny Tim leaves his gym bag outside, um,
yeah.
or whatever. Like, and then you have guys who support the SEAL teams.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's just kind of how it is. A lot of it is luck of the draw. A lot of it is um, your reputation as an EOD tech. Um, Especially working with the SEAL team because you are then representing the whole EOD community. Um, and it's a whole different mission set. It's a whole different way of thinking and attacking problems doing NSW EOD versus standard response. I have the bomb suit, I have robots,
Right, right.
all tools at my disposal EOD.
And you can like really cordon off the area, be like, all right, hey, there's a mine, we gotta
Yeah.
send whatever we're gonna do. Whereas yeah, the other you might be in like a contact situation where the scene is not safe and you have to
Right.
then go through your procedures and stuff like that.
I came up with I call it the logic tree of NSW EOD, and it
Hmm.
basically is like, if I don't have to touch it,
Yeah.
we're gonna leave it alone
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
take note and mark it. If I have to touch it, we're blowing it up.
Hmm.
And uh, I mean that's not the case for everything, but NSW EOD, we in EOD we have a saying of you have to know the rules to break the rules.
Hmm.
And when you're working the NSW side, that really applies because you
Hmm.
really have to understand your capabilities and limitations of what you can do, what your tools can do, what the explosives can do, and then it's kind of like jam band improv from there.
Right. Wow, that's interesting. So you end up deploying with the SEAL team, right? Is that
I
correct?
did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did
What was that
one
like?
deployment. I did one deployment with SEAL Team 7.
Cool. Where'd you guys go? Anywhere?
We were in Iraq. It was
Yeah.
very late Iraq, 2019. Um,
That's like Mosul, Iraq,
it
or
was
not quite.
just after. Yeah,
Just
it was
after.
just after. So my brother was in the battle for Mosul.
Oh,
He
really?
was there. Yeah, he was on the second wave. The first wave for Mosul, I had a friend Steve who was there, brand new guy, right out of school,
Mm.
got put on NSW. He was there for the initial push. Um, and then my brother that was there for the second wave, and they pretty much like opened it up. Like no rules,
Yeah.
take Mosul. Um, that all kind of ended when we got there.
Uh-huh.
Uh, my deployment was was not very kinetic,
Yeah.
to be honest. Um, to be honest though, like we did a lot of good work, but our platoon specifically, things never really went hot. We I don't care. I'll say it. Bro, we cleared our target deck.
Yeah.
Um, everything we did was direct actions. We captured everybody we needed to capture and we
Mm.
took them alive.
Mm.
Never had to fire a shot. Um,
Sick.
which to most people would be like a lot of guys would be like, man, that sounds boring. But
Yeah.
honestly, things could not have gone better.
Yeah.
Every
Right.
op we ran went fucking perfect, and that's why shit never hit the fan.
Yeah. Right.
It just
Right.
went that well. I mean, there was like, yeah, dude, we rolled up everybody that was on the billet to the point where we were running out of targets. Um,
Wow.
and
Dude, when you get older, it's like you don't like you kind of have you're like, oh wow, shit, nothing, shit didn't hit the fan, and like we didn't have to, use every bit of our training for, like when you're young and you're chomping at the bit. That's like what you want to do, and then in
yeah,
retrospect, you're kind of like, that is the best possible situation. We didn't have to lose any of our guys. We didn't have to make like morally ambiguous decisions out there that we're going to have to live with for the rest of our lives.
yeah,
There's a lot that goes into it that I think a young guy doesn't have the perspective and appreciation for all the time.
yeah. Well, I mean, and honestly, especially like with where we were. So we
Mm.
were in our Rutba, which is about 2 kilometers from the border of Jordan and Syria.
Mm.
We were a 5 to 7 hour drive to the closest U.S. military base. Um, we were actually like for a little while, we were outside that golden window of getting a medevac. Uh, we didn't want shit to go down.
Right, right.
Um, we were we were on a very small compound living. It was kind of like an SF mission. We were completely embedded and living with Iraqi partner force,
Mm.
completely reliant on them for food, water, all of our power, Wi-Fi, uh, and within a month of us being out there, we actually scooped up. Um, so we had we had the pyramid tree of bad guys hanging on the talk, and one of the guys in that top 10 pyramid tree was living in an abandoned building at the end of our ECP.
No way.
He was like the walleye of Anbar province. The
Uh,
walleye is kind of like the master at arms.
okay.
He was like one of the head weapons smugglers for that entire Al Anbar province for ISIS. Al
Huh.
Anbar province is a third of the size of the country. It's the largest province of Iraq.
Wow.
Um,
And he was down the street from you.
400
That's
yards away. 400
that's
yards
nuts.
away.
What are the chances?
So every night, there was anywhere from like 60 to 100 drones flying in the air coming from the actual town of Rutba, trying to
Mm.
fly overhead. Yeah, like we were hanging it out there. And um, dude, I'll be honest, every night I prayed that nothing would happen. And
Yeah.
I wasn't praying then like I do now. I was like burning sage in Palo Santo and yeah, playing my flute around outside. Like, uh, yeah,
I
but
can
I was
picture it.
doing whatever, man. I was just like, I don't want, like, this could go really
Yeah.
bad
Real
really
south.
quick. Yeah, we were out there. We were starving, man. We were
Oh
living
shit.
off of your daily rations was 2 scoops of rice, like a regular serving spoon, 2 scoops of rice. You got a chicken breast and 4 eggs. And that was your ration for the day.
For the day. Oh
And you
my
got
god.
one piece of fruit a week.
Wow.
Um,
And no MREs or anything like that that you guys were
so
pumping
we
in?
were getting MREs airdropped to us
Yeah.
every 2 weeks. We were also with 20
Yeah.
20 SP MAGTF, the Marine Security
Oh yeah, yeah.
Forces,
Mm-hmm.
and like 4 Army dudes that were running the fuel for the helicopter pad we built out there.
Huh.
And they were just rat fucking every MRE. So you'd go in it, dude. There'd be no entrees. Like
I
all
don't
that
know.
was
There's no
left
Skittles in
was
this
like,
one too. I don't know what happened. That's crazy.
dude,
Another
all the
one? No
candy was
protein bar?
gone.
What?
All the dude, every single, you'd go in that box, dude, and you'd open it up, and every single MRE was cut open.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, all the candy's gone. The muffin tops, like the energy bars. The only entrees that were left was that nasty pork sausage and the maple
Mm-hmm.
jello,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, where you can see the jiggle of the yeah, I know what you're talking about.
yeah.
Uh,
Luckily, though, like, I did get word from my buddy who I relieved, like, hey, man, we're starving out here.
uh,
I brought a Pelican, like a 1660, a big Pelican,
yeah,
just full of stuff.
yeah,
Um, and everybody did. Like, everybody knew, like, cool, we're gonna starve.
yeah.
Uh,
Roger
we're gonna
that.
bring some extra food too. But
Right.
man, by the end of that,
You lose some weight.
dude, yeah, everybody drops probably
Yeah.
15 pounds, 20
Wow.
pounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
super lean, super
Yeah.
lean.
That's crazy. So,
But yeah,
as okay, we were talking about this a couple weeks ago, you and me, but as an EOD tech, you're getting exposed to like a lot of blast trauma and blast exposure. And one thing that we talk about on the show and has been kind of a big mission for Wind and Sea is brain health and
yeah,
traumatic brain injury. I mean, you're probably the dude to talk about with that. Just what's been your experience?
yeah. So I got medically retired for traumatic brain injury. Um, and I'm not, dude, I'll be the first one to tell you, I'm not the coolest EOD tech. Like,
Mhm.
I have not diffused all the IEDs. I have not been Captain America. I've got to do some cool stuff. But I would say on the grand scheme, I'm pretty As far as my experience goes,
Mhm.
um, more than most, because not everybody gets to work with the SEAL teams and get that kind of exposure and experience. Um, but at the same time, as far as like getting to do real world EOD
Mhm.
work, I'm I'm right there in the middle with everybody else.
Sure.
I ain't got any awards for valor, or I'm not that guy. But with that, uh, I did the math, and in a 2.5 year period, I was exposed to between 700 and 900 explosive events, and all of those are explosive breaches.
Wow.
Um, so and we know now, like at that time, yeah, like everything, yeah, that's all in training. We're still standing at our safe distances, but the Army and the DoD has now changed their policy
Yeah.
because they now know that our safe distances were not actually safe. Um,
Yeah.
and we, even at the calculated safe distances that we've been using for decades, we now know that we're still causing traumatic brain injury.
For sure.
Um,
And do those like charts or however they, factor in what your safe distance is it taking into account like the materials of the walls and getting that like kind of concussive like blast from just the air in the room not being able to dissipate kind of thing, you know what I'm talking about?
n- no, yes and no.
No.
Uh, there are internal breaching distances, and there
Oh,
are external breaching distances, but it doesn't.
okay.
Regardless if you're internal, blast waves reverb and they
Yeah.
bounce. It's like sound. And so when that blast wave bounces off the wall, when it comes back and hits itself in that point of contact, your PSI has doubled.
Wow.
Um, and there's actually something called a triple point effect, where when a blast wave, say, bounces off a wall, it comes back, it bounces off the ground and hits the blast wave still traveling in that direction. It is now at the exponent of 3.
Oh, wow.
Um, and when you're working with the SEAL teams, like you do a lot of internal breaching. I mean, you'll do like well over 100 charges in a week. Um, So it's a lot. It's like I think the math came out to like getting punched in the face every other day. If like Mike Tyson punched you in the face every other day for 2.5 years, that's the type of trauma and exposure that
Jesus.
you're being subjected to. So
And this is like your run of the mill EOD tech on in a sense because like you said, you're kind of,
yeah, I mean, this is like not getting blown up by
yeah,
IEDs,
right,
or
right.
you
This is just
know,
doing your
or
job.
this is just doing the job. This is training to go to deployment. This
Yeah,
is the amount
right.
of exposure. Um, and yeah, so I mean, like when I came home, I definitely started noticing changes. Even when I was in country, I started noticing things. A lot of it too was stress. I
Mm-hmm.
also dealt with pretty severe PTSD for a while. Um, but I started noticing things like I was on deployment and I couldn't remember my girlfriend's last name.
Mm.
Um, and I started waking up in my bed, like not knowing where I was. It'd take me a bit to figure out, kind of resituate myself. Um, Came home. We immediately had to get into another workup. I think the third week I was home, we were sleeping in the field at Camp Pendleton. We were
Oh,
training because we were 2 months behind for the next
wow.
deployment. Uh, and I tried to stick it out, man, but I was struggling, and I kept I kept kicking and screaming for an MRI. I knew something was wrong. Finally got one, and they told me I had multiple hemorrhages on my brain.
Mm.
The way that story went down was like I was struggling for a while. Kept reaching out for help. Uh, the PTSD was getting really bad. I don't know how far into that you want me to go, but
As far as
that
you wanted to share, yeah, absolutely, dude.
it got pretty dark.
Oh,
It got to the point where I was telling my chief, like, hey man, the pistol's coming out of the closet lately. I need help. Um, and my command was basically just telling me, take Friday off, come back on Monday, and you'll be good to go. And that happened a number of times. It got to the point where, I was dry firing a pistol into my mouth every day for about 9 months. Um, and it's not that I wanted to do that. Nobody wants to do that. And honestly, I think we should talk about that a little bit more, like later on, about like how the mind works, because that's
yeah,
definitely illness. Especially if
yeah,
you have a medical background,
right.
the brain wants to do everything to survive. Um, but that's where I was at. And so, like, I kept telling people, I kept reaching out for help, and I kept getting told, like, well, we need you on the platoon.
Yeah,
So take a couple days off, figure your shit out, and come back and keep going. And eventually, it was our embedded therapist, my medic, our corpsman would not order the MRI for me. I had to get the therapist to tell the corpsman to order the MRI.
wow.
So I get an MRI. I'm waiting on results. About 2 weeks later, I'm sitting at home. I think I'm having a heart attack. Um, like chest is just doing weird things. My heart felt like it's stopping and then it's going super fast. It did that all day Saturday. Um,
Mm.
Typical guy. I was like, well, if it does it tomorrow, then I'll go to the doctor. If I wake up and it's still doing it, so
Yeah, yeah.
Sunday, still doing it, man. I'm like, it like stopped me in my tracks.
Mm.
Went to Balboa, tell them I got this heart thing going on. Immediately, they admit me. They start doing all these tests, and they just start drug testing me right away. And I'm like, what do you? They
Yeah.
drug tested me 3 times. They kept coming in asking me what kind of narcotics I'm using. I'm like, what is going on? Like,
Like, we know you're stationed with the SEAL teams. Just tell us. Just tell
yeah,
us.
they were like, no, they told me, they're like, look, dude, we've never seen anybody's heart do this that isn't taking methamphetamine. So you're doing meth, you're doing cocaine, or you are just shotgunning like energy drinks all day long. I was like, I don't touch energy drinks.
Uh,
Wasn't even drinking coffee at the time.
uh,
Like, I was like, no, like, I'm not doing any of that. Drug test me a bunch. They had me in the hospital. What was happening is I would sit there and my heart would go from 50 beats per minute, normal resting heart rate, to 180, just like that.
wow.
Um, and that's when I felt like my heart was stopping. But what was happening, it was just beating so fast, it was taking my breath away.
Uh,
Uh,
holy
they
shit.
ran all the tests, man, blood tests, ultrasound. Weren't finding anything. I'm laying in the hospital, and the doctor of the cardiology floor walked in. Like, my heart started doing it, and he runs in my room. He's like, "Bro," and I was just like, "I'm just laying there." He's like, "Dude, where are the Red Bulls? What are you doing? Are you keister stashing Red Bulls?"
You doing
I was
jumping
like,
jacks or anything? No?
"Yeah." I was like, "Dude, I was asleep, and there's no Red Bulls under this hospital gown. What's happened?" He's like, "There's something going on with your heart." So I talked to the cardiologist. We had one more test to do. They wanted to test my kidneys. They said sometimes, like, if your kidneys are failing, it'll affect your heart.
Mhm.
I was like, look, man, can I just go home? Like, I want to go home. You're not finding anything. I've been here for 3 days. He goes, look, I have one more test to do. Right now, I don't know what's wrong with your heart. It's very possible that you're just going to die. And it happens all the time. We have healthy young men like you where their heart just stops. He's like, if you die, I want you to die here in cardiology. So until we can do this test on your kidneys tomorrow morning. I don't want to let you go without knowing I've looked at every possible thing I can.
Wow.
I was like, oh, cool. Well, so should I call my girlfriend and have her come, like, say hello before I die? You
uh,
know,
I wouldn't like to die in cardiology, for the record. I'd like the record be known. I don't want to die here in
yeah.
cardiology.
So she brought me some Carl's Jr., hung out for a bit, clogged the arteries. But no, I got released. Dude, and this whole time I'm telling my chief, like, I'm in the hospital, I'm being admitted, like, I've got serious heart issues. We don't know what's
Yeah.
happening. I didn't hear from anyone in my command. CO never called to check in.
Wow.
Command IDC never called to check in. Nobody came to the hospital to be like, "Hey, are you
Wow.
okay?" Like, they think your heart's gonna fail. We should make sure you're all right. I got released on a Wednesday afternoon. I called my IDC. I was like, "Hey, I'm out of the hospital." They couldn't tell me what's wrong. I'm on heart medication now. And, my CO calls me after. Hey, I heard yeah, we're in the hospital, and yeah, you fuck. That shit got sailed to the Commodore. Like, that's a CCR. That goes straight to the Commodore when I get admitted to the hospital. I've been here for 4 days, and nobody's asked how I'm doing. We thought the cardiologist told me I'm gonna die.
Yeah. Wow.
Anyways, I got home. When I got home, the neurologist called me, and I had just been released from the hospital like 2 hours before, and the neurologist called me. He's like, "Hey, this is Dr. Brown. I want to go over your MRI results." I was like, "Sweet.
Yeah.
What's going on?" He's like, "Well, I don't know how to put it to you, but you have the brain of a 70-year-old man." Okay. He said, "You have roughly 12 1 to 2 millimeter lesions on your brain, and they're all concentrated on the interior left cerebellum. So cerebellum is the back of your head here, and it's kind of your brain's in two hemispheres. So all of my injuries were on the front inner side on the left hemisphere of my cerebellum. To me, it made a lot of
Cerebellum's
sense.
it's like memory, right? It's like
It's
memory,
memory. A lot of it is motor function,
motor function. Yeah.
balance, hand-eye coordination, depth perception. Um, and he was like, "Look, to be honest with you, the TBI is not affecting you." I was like, "Bullshit, it's not affecting me." He's like, "No, you don't understand. If these injuries were affecting you in the part of your brain where they should be affecting you and would be, you would be a vegetable right now."
Wow.
He said, where these injuries are and how dense they are together, even though they're micro lesions, you have so many in one area, you wouldn't be able to walk on your own. You'd have no depth perception. You'd have lost most of your motor function. And dude, the biggest problem I have for me is when I close my eyes, I fall over.
Still to this day.
Still to this
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
But
That's incredible that it wasn't like giving you more issues. I think there's so much of the brain that we like don't even fully understand, you know?
well, it definitely was, right? Because I think my heart was related to the brain injury. Like,
Yeah.
we're talking autonomic nervous systems,
Right.
and when something is messed up, it's going to have a ripple effect throughout the body and the nervous
Mhm.
system. And cardiology kept saying there's no way they're related. I was like, how? Like, this is my nervous system. Nervous system is fucking up.
Yeah,
There's a
your
relationship,
brain
dude.
and heart are not connected in any way. Trust
Yeah.
me. I've spent my entire life only learning about the heart, so I know. Of
But I mean, it definitely did affect me in terms of
course it did.
memory and like memory, cognitive function, a lot of things like that. But
Mhm.
in terms of like those actual hemorrhages, where
Right.
they were on my brain,
Yeah.
um, dizziness when my eyes are closed. It's
Well, I
actually
was gonna ask
funny.
you. I was gonna ask you this too. How much of your PTS you think was related to your TBI diagnosis or symptoms
So
of that? You know.
symptoms of I don't know. I mean, so like I actually got in a fight with one of the neurologists. She believed that I didn't have PTSD at all,
Hmm.
and um, all of my issues were a result of finding out I had a brain injury.
Oh my God.
Even though
It's like retro causality. How does that
I
even make
had, yeah, I was like,
sense?
have you even read my record? Even though I had been diagnosed with PTSD like 6 months before I even got the MRI,
Okay.
um, and even knew I had a brain injury.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, they tried to pull a lot of fast. There's a lot of overlapping symptoms with PTS and TBI.
Mm-hmm.
So the military does do a really good job of this now, where if you're diagnosed with one, they're automatically going to screen you
Mm-hmm.
for the other. So as soon
Interesting.
as like I don't know, you remember when you come home from a deployment, you got to do one of those post-deployment health assessments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stupid survey on the computer, and then you
Mm-hmm.
call a number, and the nurse gives you, these were your results.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I did that. I was home for probably 3 or 4 weeks, maybe. I did that. The lady called, and she was like, "Sir, I don't know how to tell you this, but like, you have severe PTSD."
Mm-hmm.
Um, just
Wow.
based off of my scores on
Right,
there.
right.
And I remember like getting really flushed and almost tearing up and I just hung up the phone
Wow.
and I just swallowed it and kept going. And several months later, then I got diagnosed and then I got the MRI. A lot of them are overlapping though.
Yeah.
You're talking a physical trauma in the brain that hasn't had time to heal and recover
Mm-hmm.
with ongoing psychological trauma in the brain, and it's really hard to differentiate between the two.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so what came from what? I don't know. It's hard to say.
Right, right.
But
But
they were.
so
It's usually a double whammy.
so now you how's diagnosis? You kind of get medically separated. I want to make kind of maybe transitioning into some of this other stuff, including like how art was therapeutic
Yeah,
for you in that. Do you want to talk about that? Because I just did a podcast last week or a couple weeks ago with this girl that she has this healing through art like clinics, and
yeah,
the big thing is that like she has it's helped her process like PTS symptoms, and just really changed her life to have a creative outlet.
dude. Honestly, at that point in my life, like I was reaching for everything I could to try and help. Um, Art was a big one. um, Horses got me through a lot.
Hmm,
Um, I got
that's a big.
into a horsemanship program out here in San Diego called Saddles and Service. Um, that got me through a lot of shit.
uh,
Horses taught me a lot about myself, taught me a lot of self awareness.
hmm,
Um, there's a lot of great science around that as well, in terms of the way being in the presence of a horse can regulate the human nervous system.
interesting.
Um, yeah, it all has to do with like heart rate variability, which
Hmm,
is the gap between heartbeats. Um, what they found is heart rate variability is not only is a determining factor of whether somebody has PTSD, but can also determine how likely it is they can get PTSD after a deployment based on the variability of their heart rate. And
wow.
so there's a couple studies that have been done um, that you can find on the NIH. And what they did was they took they measured the heart rate variability of the human being before ever being in the presence of a horse. And then they took the heart rate variability after. Um, so we're electrical beings, right? Like everything, all the signals, they're electrical signals. Your heart's electricity. Your heart has actual nodes that create its own electricity in your body. Your the electromagnetic radiation from the human heart is measurable outside your body 4 to 8 feet.
Wow.
Depending on your emotion at the time. Which is funny, because everybody always talks like high vibes, right? I'm high frequency stuff. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to be low vibe.
Right.
Well,
Right.
they obviously they don't know jack shit about comms, right? Because ultra high frequencies mean you have a lot of waves in a short period, but those waves are not strong and don't project very far. Low frequency waves actually project further. When you're in a good mood,
Mm.
the EMR from your heart projects further
Mm.
outside your body, and your bubble
Oh,
can expand outwards of 8 feet. I'm gonna turn the light on real quick.
yeah, yeah, go for it. That's super
Uh,
interesting. It's fine. I'm not even tripping about it.
um, when you're depressed and you're
Uh,
sad, that frequency, higher frequency, because of chaos and
uh-huh.
stress, um, it actually shrinks your bubble in. So, anyways, what they found, a
Interesting.
horse's heart is similar to that. A horse's heart, that bubble expands 20 feet outside of its body. What they found was when a human being comes within that 20-foot bubble of a horse, it actually regulates our sympathetic nervous system and
Crazy.
causes our heart rate variability to match the horse's. And because a horse's heart operates on such a low frequency, it's like jamming our nervous system.
That's crazy. I
Um,
understand. That's fucking wild.
yeah, it's honestly like radio jamming.
Yeah,
And
it's like a physical. It's not just like an emotional support type deal. Sorry, I'm just opening it. It's not just like an emotional response. It's like literally physiologically changing the
yes,
electrical signature of your heart, which is crazy.
yes. And when the human heart operates on the same frequency that a horse's does, which was I don't remember his name numbers off the top of my head. Um, but I know that when we were in that frequency, it puts your brain in what's called the alpha wave,
Hmm.
um, which is like where you're at when you get a dopamine release and your
Yeah,
sympathetic nervous system is regulated. That's why horses are so therapeutic,
that makes sense.
because there is a physical reaction happening to you being around them. That
Have
did a
they
lot
studied
for
that with any other animals? Like, do you know if like dogs or maybe it's like
done.
the radius, that like 20-foot radius that you were saying
Yeah,
that makes it is able to like penetrate through the human body a little bit
yeah.
easier and kind of get in
It
sync.
I mean, yeah, like dogs are therapeutic too, but that's just because like there's so much affection and physical contact. Like
Yeah.
you're getting oxytocin from that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which also regulates your nervous system. But with
Right.
horses, like you're standing in this EMR bubble and
That's
it's
crazy.
literally jamming the electronics of your nervous system to regulate you back to baseline.
Wow.
Um, so I did that. I did that for a while. I ended up volunteering there for a long time, while I was going through my retirement board process, and it was amazing, man. I was then volunteering there, and I was teaching people horsemanship, and I was getting to just just watch people completely just
Uh,
um and I'd have so many people be like, "Man, I feel like I'm stoned right now. Like I feel drugged." And it's because I'd have to tell them, like, it's because you've been running on so much cortisol and your
mm,
nervous system running so high and so much chaos. What you're feeling right now is actually baseline where you should
mm.
be, but you feel drugged because you've never come down to baseline in who knows how
Wow.
long. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm like super silhouetted right
Oh, it's all good, dude. No, whatever you're like whatever just makes it nice for you, so that you're not like just sitting in the dark. If you know, but
Yeah,
we're
I want to look. I want to look good though.
oh, yeah,
Um,
damn girl. Mm.
but yeah, and then as far as art, I got into art a lot. I've always been kind of into art. Always been into painting, poetry. I write a lot of poetry, a lot of writing. And then I ended up finding, dude, this didn't help at all. Um,
There you go.
there we go.
That's better. Yeah, much
There
better.
we go.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
sure, whatever. That's my record player. It's my broken. That's the broken computer. Uh, but yeah, then I got into cowboy arts. I really got into doing leather work. I really got into rawhide and rawhide braiding, which is it's a very, very old craft. And essentially, what you're doing is you're taking the fresh hide off of a cow. Um, you're fleshing it, so you're scraping all of the fat and sinew off the underside of that skin, and then you soak it in an alkali solution. A lot of people use what's called slake lime, or I've got wood burning stove in my house, so I use all
Mm,
the hardwood ash, creates lye,
mm.
kind of like Fight Club, you know,
Yeah,
puts the
yeah.
lime in there, burns them. So you soak it in a hardwood ash and water solution, and when you pull it out, all of the hair will fall out. And you string it up on this big frame. You dry it for multiple days, and then it's hard and tight like a
Hard.
drum.
Huh.
From there, uh, you soak it back in water to soften it up, and then you start cutting strings, and then from there you can braid it. There's all kinds of stuff. I'll show you. Actually, I got
Yeah.
something right here.
Grab something. And what do you do with these things? Like, is it just for like the art at some point? Like you're just making it for the sake of making it, or
So
was the point of these to be made into something?
yeah, these things get made into it. So this is called traditional cowboy arts, and basically what you're making is your usable gear.
Gotcha.
Um,
Yeah.
so like this here, this is
Yeah.
called a Honda, and it's made completely out of rawhide, and you can see that it's braided. Um,
Yeah.
this is
That's
what goes on the end of
wow.
your this is what goes on the end of your lariat.
Oh,
Um,
duh.
so this all came off of a cowhide, a fresh cowhide that I cut, dried, split.
Wow.
You can do decorative braids like this. This is on a headstall for a horse. These are
Cool.
called pineapple knots. Some of it is decorative. So like this piece, all the rawhide that you see on here, all this white stuff, that's just
Uh-huh.
decorative. It doesn't
Uh-huh.
have any function. Things like the Honda, that's functional cowboy gear. Um, I make basals, which is like a nose band that you put over the horse to steer them, control them. Um, it's kind of the earliest form of leather before we started tanning leather.
Uh,
Um, it's called rawhide because it is the raw cowhide. But I do it. I love making my own cowboy gear, and I
that's
make gear
very
for other
cool.
people with as far as the rawhide goes. But I really got into leather work too. I do a lot of leather carving.
Do you do like patches and stuff? Do you do some leather?
I mean, I haven't done patches, but I can. You know, I've done like actually here's like this was a leather Bible cover I made.
Oh yeah.
That's
Sick.
that's a
Yeah, well,
hummingbird. Let me get some better light. Um, but like this is all
yeah, that's dude, you know
leather
what
carving.
we should can I would love to commission some sort of so let me show you not this hat. I I really like this hat shape. That this one in particular, I found the blanks for them.
Yeah.
and but it does it with a like a patch on the front. So my idea has been like I'll buy like some of these blanks, and then I would like to get a patch done. I was really mostly considering cloth stuff, but dude, maybe a
Yeah.
sick leather thing would be like a cool way of like implementing your craft with making some merch out of here.
I I could totally make some patches for you. And yeah, I can totally do that.
That would be sick.
I'm set up now. I'm pretty much set up to run a full-blown leather shop out of my house.
Sick. Hell yeah.
It's just right now it's like it's time, like
Yeah.
I have a
Right.
full-time
Right.
job, so I don't get
Right.
to dedicate as much to it, but I've made a lot of stuff. I've made chaps, I've made purses, a lot of it I make for myself.
Yeah.
Custom dash covers.
Cool.
But I've made like wallets, eyeglass holders, your typical leather stuff,
Right.
belts, whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I've got some floral carving stuff. I'd have to grab it. I don't know. I'm into that
Did
new
uh
art.
did the leather work, and how did I guess the like art therapy
The
side
art
of it
piece.
contribute to your therapy?
Yeah. So well, I got to go to Intrepid Spirit up at Camp Pendleton, which is like their TBI camp for 8 weeks. And there we did art therapy and music therapy. And at first I've really found a lot of relief in the music therapy.
Hmm.
Um and I had started trying to learn how to play guitar, and it was just the anytime any picking up any kind of new habit
Sure.
promotes neuroplasticity.
Totally.
And that's what it's all about, is neuroplasticity, which is, we used to think that when your brain cells died, they were dead, and you only get 12 marbles, and when you lose them all, they're
Oh,
gone.
yeah.
We now know that the brain will fully heal itself.
Hmm.
And it's more just like taking detours along the way. So
Yeah.
those neurological pathways may be broken through injuries and scar tissue occurs, but your brain will create new neurological
Hmm.
pathways around those injuries. Um,
That
we
that's the
can,
whole big promise with psychedelic therapy too. It's all
yes,
about getting that neuroplasticity and kind of
yes,
making new connections.
yes. So for me, art had always been kind of a part of my life, but I'd like pick it up and put it down and pick it up and
Yeah.
put it down. And then
Yeah.
after going there to Intrepid Spirit, I really made an effort to really keep art a part of my life in any
Hmm.
way it was, whether it was writing or drawing or painting. I'd get like really hipster with it. I bought an old typewriter so that when I would write poems, it would be this
Yeah.
whole deal of typing it
Yeah.
out.
Right.
And then, through horses and getting really into cowboying, I've always been fascinated with early California history. So
Yeah.
learning horsemanship here in San Diego, where the cowboy was invented and cattle ranching started in the United States,
Oh,
it was
that's
like, absolutely. So then
yeah.
that's how I ended up getting into leather, and it allowed me enough creative freedom to get that out while still kind of having some lateral limits of what I'm doing with it,
Yeah.
but
Right.
also
Right.
I like to try to do kind of unconventional leatherwork stuff too, like mix mediums and just
Cool.
play with it. I've always been a fan of mixing mediums with art.
Yeah.
Even for a while there, I got really into sewing clothes. So I
I remember
started
that
sewing.
actually when you were van lifing it, right? Is that kind of around that same time you were? I
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
that.
that's actually where I really started. Was I
Oh
picked
yeah.
up an antique Singer sewing machine. It was 100. It was from like 1913, hand
Wow.
crank, and I just started sewing on it. And so I got really into sewing. I was sewing like custom Hawaiian shirts. Um, Not for Los Bigotes though. Like I could not pump them out at that level.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. You guys got pretty
yeah,
busy.
but I was just making them, and it just any kind of art and craftiness. You know, I took an old pair of Cries, like our
Yeah.
op camis,
Mhm.
AOR1 Desert Cam, and I cut all of the elastic gussets out, like around the knees, the crotch, the butt, and I replaced it with like tie-dye spandex. And
That's awesome.
so like because I was doing stuff like that. And
That's fun.
at the time, I still am a big proponent for psychedelics for brain injury and PTSD. Um, I have to be honest, I never did it in a clinical setting.
Yeah.
Um, like there are some organizations out there. There's the Mission Within down in Tijuana that does ibogaine treatment. I have several friends. It has changed their life. It has saved their life. Um, at the time that finally started coming around, or at least
Mm.
I got exposed to it,
Mhm.
I was already over the hill
Mhm.
in
You you
my
found the things that
psychological.
were kind of working.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And so I at the time had decided, and this is being a guy who's like I was very pro psychedelics, like to the
Yeah.
point, bro. I mean, I swear I got the book somewhere. Uh, oh yeah, dude, like this, like this book here. All right, this book's about Stanley Owsley. Uh,
Mm.
he was the guy that made all of the LSD for the Grateful Dead,
Oh,
and one of
cool.
the largest LSD producers in the country of all time. Him and then his protege Nick something with an S. Anyways,
Hmm.
I mean, I used to think that like LSD was the source, and there was no
Yeah.
way you could understand God if you had not taken LSD or been on like
Interesting.
a huge psychedelic trip.
Right.
Um, so I was very big on, and then I started doing the research. I did do the actual Paul Stamets microdose
Mhm.
protocol for a
Mhm.
while.
Oh, nice.
Um, which for people who don't know,
Yeah. No.
it's what is it? I want to say it's 10 milligrams or zero point 0.1 grams
Okay.
of
Psilocybin.
psilocybin,
Right.
and you take it 5 days a week, um, 5 days on, 2 days off, and you do that for a 30-day period, and then you can do that for 3 months and then take 30 days off. Um, so he has a very strict protocol for it. The reason
This
why
isn't
it's
the one
point
with like niacin and other stuff, right? This
no,
isn't that.
no,
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. That.
because this was like 2020, 2021, and I think he had just released a podcast at the time, like stating his protocol on what he's discovered for microdosing.
Mm.
Um, And the whole point of microdosing is it's a subsensory dose. So you
Mhm.
take it, you're not supposed to feel anything, you're not
Mhm.
supposed to trip out. But what it does is it does release the neurochemicals that promote neuroplasticity. And it allows you will feel, I did feel a difference, like in
Hmm.
terms of mood. There were
Mhm.
I definitely felt like my brain was working, firing on all cylinders, a little more
Hmm.
clear headed. But you're not tripping balls every day. Um, but with that, um, I think a lot of confusion with microdosing because at that time I had not been exposed to ibogaine, but everyone in my community was talking about microdosing. Um,
Yeah.
but
Right.
people were microdosing as just a way to feel good, like just
Yeah.
to feel better.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and so the issue with that is if you're going to use a microdosing protocol because you want to change things, maybe you're depressed or it's the way you're thinking or you've got habits you're trying to break, you have to make changes while on the microdosing protocol, because if you continue the behaviors and thought patterns you're trying to get rid of while
Mm.
microdosing, you're actually just making them stronger
Wow.
because it's promoting those neurological pathways.
Yeah.
And so if you're still participating in this,
Mm.
whatever this bad habit is you want to get rid of, and microdosing, you're just making it stronger.
That's
Now,
interesting.
now, if you are changing your behaviors and catching your thoughts so you're not going down these rabbit holes, it's allowing you to create new neurological pathways that promote those habits and those
Yeah.
behaviors so you can break away from the old ones.
Huh.
Um,
It's like
so like
building a new habit and breaking an old habit is kind of the same like
it's the same
thing. It's
mechanism.
just yeah, same mechanism.
It's
It's
the
just which
same
one are you doing?
neurological mechanism.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Um,
Mm.
so there was like I was very for it. I was all for it. I was microdosing, but I was also very much like putting in the work.
Yeah.
And it was
Okay.
working for me. And
Yeah.
then I had a lot of friends who like wanted to try it, and I'd let them try it. And they're like, that's great, man. I feel good on it. And
Uh-huh.
I actually started moving away from psychedelics because I didn't
Mm.
want to influence my peer group to
Mm.
make that's your first choice and that's your go-to.
Sure.
Um, because it can
Totally.
definitely be abused,
Yeah. Right.
or do more harm than good.
Sure.
Uh, but the ibogaine is 100%. It's proven. I mean,
Yeah.
if you just watch that Joe Rogan with Brian Hubbard and the other guy, former governor of
Rick
Texas,
Perry.
like
Rick
Rick
Perry.
Perry, like it is out
Yeah.
there. It's
Yeah.
definitely works. I'm all for it. I have not put my money where my mouth is, and I've not done ibogaine.
Right.
Um, but
I mean, a big thing that I've like tried to kind of promote with like my business and this podcast and
you're
is
all the
trying to
functional
like
stuff.
yeah, well, it's functional stuff, but like
Mm.
I don't believe in silver bullet solutions. I'm not
Yeah,
here to like sell you that this is the answer. Oh, you're depressed, you're this, just go do psychedelics and it'll fix all your problems. Like no matter
exactly.
what, dude, it's going to take a lot of work. And what works for me may not work as well for you, and there might be, part of promoting holistic health and
Yes.
alternative wellness is looking at your health from as a whole and finding how many ways can we attack this one problem, because it's like we said earlier, dude, like your brain and your heart and your kidneys and like all these things are and your psychology, all of it is
Yes.
intertwined into this thing that is and trying to disentangle it and be like, well, let's just zoom in and treat the heart like a cardiologist will do. That is what is the shortcomings of Western medicine for chronic
Yes.
disease, is because by the time shit is chronic, dude, it is involving a lot of other aspects of your body and your psychology, and so
Yeah.
you have to treat it from a variety of different ways, and psychedelics is a great tool, but it's just a tool,
It's a
so
tool.
is force therapy, so is art therapy,
Yeah.
so is exercise, so is talk therapy. I just did this with that healing through wellness thing. We did sound bath and breath work, were two
Hmm.
of the things. So people were like microdosing, sound baths, and breath work, and then it was a macrame, like clinic, and like
Yeah.
some combination of those things, dude. You just feel so good leaving it, and outside of the microdose, which you didn't have to do, is it's none of that was pharmacological, and none of it was even something you consumed, dude. It's all natural,
Dude,
just your body, your breath, you know.
100%. And there's so many ways. And like, I agree. And that was why, like, when I found out about Mission Within and like that became an option, I was like, I told myself, no, like, I do not want to do that because I don't want to just reach for a silver bullet. Like, I want to figure this out. I'm already doing the work. I kind of already made it over the hill.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this. There are
Right.
definitely people in cases where like ibogaine is gonna be your only resort, and I have
Sure.
some friends who are like that. Um, but like you said, I mean, when it comes to health, when it comes to your psyche, your mental health, your nervous system, there are so many different ways that you can attack it. There's so many different systems in play. And that's honestly, that's exactly what I did. For a long time, I cut out caffeine because drinking my cup of coffee on an empty stomach in the morning was
Mm,
just firing my anxiety,
mm,
or
mhm,
it was bringing out my rage, and I was just
mhm,
getting angry. I
mhm.
went through a lot of periods of like severe rage, like blacking out and
Wow.
coming to, you know, 30 minutes away from where I'm supposed to be. I
Wow.
remember when it happened, the first time I realized I had a rage problem, I was driving home from work, and I don't know how long I was going at it, but I'm just fucking at the windshield, right? You goddamn motherfucking son, I'll fucking kill you. And like losing
Wow.
it, bro. Windows up. I'm sweating. I'm beat red. I'm at a red light, I guess. And I'm just going to town. And
Wow.
a dude next to me honked his horn. And I looked at him. And he looked at me and was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Oh my God." I was like really doing this right now. Because I thought I'm just thinking it in my head. But
Mm,
nah, I was like,
wow.
um, and like, so I had to attack it from every angle. So it was
Yeah.
diet. I started cutting out all the sugars, all the processed sugar, processed carbohydrates. I've been pretty strictly carnivore for 2 years
Oh,
now.
cool.
Um, Completely changed everything. I
Hmm.
think it doesn't have to be carnivore. Just get rid of the shit. Get
Right.
rid of the
Right.
shit. Get rid of the preservatives. Get rid of the food colors, the natural flavoring, the artificial flavoring. They're all neurological disruptors. Get rid of that shit. Eat real food. It's that simple. Like,
Totally.
just eat
You
real
know,
food.
I think another aspect of to that same point that it seems like in your story changed was your spiritual diet.
For sure. For sure.
You want to talk about that? And
Yeah.
as
Um,
much or little as you'd like to go into, and then we can kind of turn the corner and hit our conspiracy hour, conspiracy corner before we wrap up. Well, we have plenty of
yeah.
time. There's no rush, but I just mean like I'd like to get in a piece of that, and then we can talk about
Yeah.
some of the other stuff that we were
No, I
talking
really
about.
appreciate that. Absolutely. I will be honest. Um, in the depths of my struggle, like when I was clack clack, dude. I don't say that like I say it like that, you know. I have to make some light of it because
Of
while
course,
that was happening,
of course.
I told myself I knew what I was doing. I knew what the thoughts were. They're like, I just want like if I just died, I wouldn't have to deal with this shit anymore. But
Yeah.
every day I told myself that is not what you actually want, and I'm not going to be a fucking statistic.
Hmm.
Because every time I kept reaching out for help, I was just getting dead ended. And I was like, dude, these people like the government, the VA, they want you fucking dead because it is so much cheap. It's millions of dollars.
Yeah.
They don't have to spend on you for the rest of your life if you're just fucking dead. And so
Wow.
out of spite, I told myself, I don't care how many times
You
I
ain't
put
getting
this
off that easy.
dude, it actually like I started making fun of myself when I was
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah.
Um because I was like, bro, this is so gay. Like like do I put my lips on it? Do I don't want to bite it cuz then like the metal hurts my teeth, but then like how deep do I put it in? Like I started telling myself that every time it would come up. And I was like, dude, quit being a faggot. Like get this out of you might as well suck dick right now. But
Wow.
even in the depths of that, dude, like even when like I went through a period of time where I couldn't see color. Like I was that depressed, like I was seeing the world in
Mm,
black and white. But
mm,
even in that time, I never had faith and I never reached out to God. I was still very much in my pagan ways. Um And I say that because that's what I was doing. I made up a god. I made up a way of worship and religion, um, where I would like burn incenses, and I hodgepodged all this shit together, and it was everything. I was looking for God everywhere except for Christianity, and I wanted to follow every religion and follow every religious leader except for Jesus. Um, and I did that for most of my life. Um, out of high school, I got really into Hinduism, read the Bhagavad Gita, got into Buddhism. I even had some friends. I grew up with a lot of Mormons. I explored that one, got away from that real quick. Uh, but was constantly looking for it. And then I just started like as I was exploring with psychedelics, and then I was finding out more about like these Peruvian cultures and Huachuma, like San Pedro cactus, and I just started, dude, it was the most like cultural appropriation, like white person thing I could do, where I just mixed it all together and like, cool, that's my religion and call me spiritual. Um, and then what's really changed my life, like, and even all through that, and even as good as I was doing, I was still having a lot of struggles. Still struggling with a lot of anger, a lot of anxiety, easily irritable, trouble sleeping, just not feeling any kind of peace. And to be honest, I've spent my whole life um, for love. I call myself a hopeful romantic. I have been writing love poems my whole life. My hands, it says love,
You got
love.
the blasters, knuckle blasters. Say
Yeah,
love,
dude.
love. I
Love,
love it.
love, because like everything I did, I wanted it to be done with love. Love is the most powerful force in the universe. It's the most creative form of the universe. One of my favorite books. I don't know if I'll be able to pull it right off the shelf. No. It's called The Symposium by Plato. And
Mm.
it was written by Plato. It's an entire symposium on the complexities of love. And so what I'm getting at is like in the depths of my sorrow and depression, I never hit the level of despair of needing to actually have faith.
Mm.
It wasn't until I really fell in love with a woman, and from the beginning, I kept hearing this voice in my head of like, you need to know me or you'll never know love. And I was like, okay, I don't know what that is. But then I noticed like she got really uncomfortable with like the way I would describe to her that I would pray. Like I'd burn sage and play my flute, and I would sprinkle tobacco on the dirt outside and dance in it. And I had these massive quartz crystals, and it'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? She got really uncomfortable with it. And I kept hearing like, you'll never know love until you know me. And slowly, like one day, I just had this feeling of like, I should start reading the Bible. And I told her, like, I think I want to start reading the Bible. She was like, yeah, I think that's a great idea. Started reading it, still with a lot of objectivity of like, okay, I know God is real. I'm not sold on Jesus.
Mhm.
If God says worship no man, but Jesus was a man, why are we worshiping Jesus?
Mhm.
Like, there's so much
Mhm.
contradiction in here. A
Mhm.
lot of it was ignorance because I never read it. As I was reading it, as I read it, I started to believe it more. Um, and honestly, one day, like, and I don't need to get into it, but relationship ended, um, completely crushed me. And I think I was at a point in my life where I felt like I had finally found the love I'd been looking for my whole life, and now it was gone. That was if God was going to reach me in any way, it was going to be
Mhm.
through love of some kind. It's not going to
Mhm.
be through anger or danger or sadness or fear, cuz like none of that shit bothered me. It was
Right.
love.
Wow.
Well, he took it away, and I remember just that was it. I was like, okay, like I'll share my story. I had a moment. I was outside and I just started crying to the Lord. And I was like, Jesus, like I had had these dreams that I thought were very real. Like, we're going to get married, we're going to have kids. Like I saw my whole life before us, right? Well, obviously that was all gone. Um, I was like, Lord, I read in the Bible that God speaks to us through dreams and visions. So I was like, okay, God, give me the discernment to know the difference between your dreams and my delusions. What is in my head that's coming from my imagination, and what do you want from me? And what are you trying to tell me? And I remember I came inside the house and I got a message on my phone. It was 10 o'clock our time. It was from my friend's mom. Um, my best friend Josh Christie had passed away. I took care of him while he was battling a very aggressive form of brain cancer, um, called the butterfly glioblastoma. I was with him every day, pretty much from diagnosis till departure. Extremely hard, right? Having this like spoon feed your best friend. But his mom and I became very close, and she lives in Florida. It's 1 a.m. her time, and she messaged me and she said, Brandon, somebody sent me this song, and I think it'd bring you some peace right now. And I open it up and I play this song, and the song opened with, I speak the name of Jesus over you in your sorrow, in your hurting. I ask my God to move. And I had just literally just got off my knees and prayed, God, let me know your voice and let me know the
Wow.
difference between my thoughts and like what you want me to think and my delusions. And I walked in, this is on there.
Wow.
Dude, lost it. Um,
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, like I've always known God is real. This just proves, like, I don't know, I don't believe in coincidences. I'm giving my life to Jesus now. And and I'll be honest, stepping into my faith has been the greatest thing I've done for my mental
Mm.
health. Um, there's an incredible amount of peace that comes with it. Um, I have not been angry in 8 months.
Mm.
Um, since I did. I don't know. I think just when it's a surrender. It's a letting go. And it's trusting that
Trust. I think that's a big
it's trust.
aspect.
It's I know God is not going to do bad things to me. You know, Romans 8:28. God uses all things for good for those that believe in him. All of the bad shit in your life, God uses that as tools to do good things. And it's kind of goes back to like everything happens for a reason, right? Um,
Yeah.
so all the bad shit that happened in your life, it made you who you are, got you to this point in your life, and beautiful positive things have come from it. Um,
Mm.
hey, maybe I got my heart completely broken and the woman who I thought was like the woman of my dreams is no longer with me, but like, dude, I'm stronger in my faith than I've ever been. I'm experiencing more peace than I've ever felt. I lead a men's group in Bible study every week, which is absolutely unheard of for Branden Vriens. Um, and I'm going to seminary school, and I have just
Mm.
a comfort in my life now of knowing that like I don't need to stress over trying to figure it all out.
Mm.
Because that's really what
Mm.
it comes down to, and that's the
Sure,
trust
dude.
and the surrender of like, bro, you don't know what's going to happen in your life tomorrow.
Uh,
You don't know if you're going to wake up tomorrow. And that happens a lot. Dudes your age or my age, go to sleep and don't wake up. You don't know what's going to happen, and no amount of worrying is going to change it or fix it. But which is biblical as well. Do not be anxious about your life. Um,
mm.
you know, it's because just knowing that God has your back, and whatever you're going through, one, if you're in a hard time, there's things for you to learn through that.
Yeah. Right.
That is for you, that is for growth and for learning, self-awareness, to build your insight. It's not like wallowing, oh God, I'm the victim and this bad thing happened. And yes, feel your feelings. But at the same time, you have to understand there's so much you can get out of this position. Maybe somebody betrayed you, somebody wronged you, people close to you hurt you. Great. Guess what? You get to learn how to forgive, and you get to
Right.
understand what true forgiveness is and what real love is. Do you only love those people because they loved you back? Or do you love those people because you love those people? Well, then why do you hate them now just because they did something to you, you know? It's
Yeah.
like you're something to
Right.
get from every trial in your life. Um,
Yeah, I've heard this one phrase. I'm probably gonna like butcher it, but it's essentially it's like it's a variation of like you're exactly at where you're supposed to be. You know, like the challenges, the difficulty of the challenges that you have, is exactly as difficult as you are capable of handling because that's why they're in your life right now. You know what I mean? Like and it
100%.
may feel overwhelming, but that's where maybe like the faith and trust is that like you would not be dealing with this right now if it was the wrong problem for you to be dealing with. It's exactly the right challenge for you at this point in your life.
100%. If you look back on your life, all of the shitty situations you got put in, I guarantee you can connect the dots of all of the
Right,
positive things that came out of that.
right,
Um,
right, right.
and even with trials and tribulations, I mean that's biblical too. It's like rejoice in your tribulation because it builds perseverance, and perseverance builds character, and character builds endurance. And we're living a
Mhm,
life that is of endurance. This
mhm.
is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah,
And
right.
any hardship you encounter is just going to build your character. And if we can look at it like that, like, man, I'm facing some really hard shit right now. Well, I can tuck my tail, I can try to drink it away, but it's not going to go anywhere, and I can try to hide and escape. You know what? There's nothing wrong with trying to escape reality, but there will be consequences to escaping to the reality that you escape,
Mm,
you know?
hmm.
Uh,
Right, right.
for me, faith, like, prayer is extremely powerful. I have seen a number of miracles in my life that are just
Mm,
unexplainable other than being a miracle. I have really close friends of mine who have been witnesses to miracles.
mm,
Actually, I have a friend, a female. She's a physician's assistant. I just saw her last night, and she told me the story that
mm,
she had a patient in the hospital with her. He was a do not resuscitate, um, and he was in there for a heart condition. And she said there was a code blue, and it was to her room. She ran in there. Um, Everybody's in the room. She's like, it's her patient. She's like, what the hell is going on? Um, like, what happened? He's a do not resuscitate. Don't touch him. He absolutely doesn't want to be resuscitated. Um, she stood there next to him. She said, I put my hand, I took his to take his pulse, and I'm watching the monitor, and he's flatlined, and he is dead. And I am right about to call him, like pronounce him as dead. And she said, all of a sudden, his arms shot up and he sat up completely like this, like Frankenstein style.
oh,
And everyone was like, what the fuck? And she just slowly put his arms down, and she went to check his pulse again. She said as soon as she touched his neck, she felt his pulse and saw it read on the screen, and his heart started beating again. And he
wow.
came back and he woke up, and she was like, do you remember what just happened? Like, do you remember? I guess they were having a conversation with him before
Mm,
about like a possible pacemaker. He's like, yeah, I remember you were talking to me about a pacemaker. She's like, okay, well, you just died and now you're back. Do you still want to be a do not resuscitate And do you still, are you still in your stance of you don't want a pacemaker? And he was like, all right, put the pacemaker in. But I guess so, I'm back. But like,
Wild.
like she had said,
Right.
she was in tears. She's like, Brandon, I have seen so much death in the hospital. I have never seen anybody completely flatline and unassistedly just come back to life like that.
Yeah.
Her
So great.
words, it was a miracle.
Yeah.
Um, you know, uh,
Huh.
yeah, I don't know. My
So
faith is a big part in my recovery now. It plays a big part in my life and in my health, my mental health.
that's great.
Um, yeah.
You said something earlier that I kind of wanted. This I think is a good segue when you were talking about how it was like the VA. You are cheaper dead than it's like they kind of want you
Yeah.
to die, or they don't really want the responsibility of having to kind of take care of you in an intensive way. I'll send you this episode when it posts. But I interviewed this guy named Kagan Gill. He's survived the fastest ejection from a like ejecting seat. He was a fighter pilot. Was coming down at a 51-degree angle. It's about 2,000 feet off the ground. He has to eject. The speed is like 700 miles per hour. It's like rips through all of his shit. I mean, he should have died. Goes through a whole TBI thing after, ends up flying planes again, doing the thing, starts having similar deals where he's blacking out of memory, can't remember, half of the flight that they did, stuff like that. So he's going in, they're trying to check him, like, what's going on. They just keep giving him these like SSRIs and various forms of like psychological like medications for this, and he's
Hmm.
not getting better. He's getting actually a lot worse, and is starting to have these delusions where he like thinks the government is like trying to kill him, and like he thinks that they're like poisoning him, which ironically is
They
like they
are.
kind of were. They are.
They are.
But like the final straw was he's making dinner, or his wife's making dinner, and he has two young kids. He's like my age. He was like 34, But so this was like a couple years ago. But his wife's making dinner. He runs into the kitchen and just takes the pan and throws it in the trash and goes like, "Don't eat that. It's all contaminated. They're trying to poison us." And that was kind of when his wife was like, "All right, we got to do something about this." So they take him to the hospital. They're doing all these tests, trying to figure out what's going on. He essentially voluntarily checks into a inpatient like psychological ward, and for 3 months tries to get out. Once he's like in there, he's like, I labeled, or I titled this episode. I said like from the cockpit to the cuckoo's nest. You ever seen One Flew
Yeah.
Over the Cuckoo's Nest, dude?
Oh yeah.
The way he was describing it was exactly that.
Oh
And it was
yeah.
like, if you were, so he was like, I went to seer school, he was like, I thought I would be using these skills like behind enemy lines. I had never thought I was gonna have to use them at the fucking VA hospital. He was improvising weapons. Like he was like planning a whole escape. They were gonna do the fire alarm, and so he
What?
attempts to do this. He had bed sheets, like a rope, like all sorts of shit. But I guess people had
Whoa.
tried it in the past, and so they evacuated the hospital, but they didn't evacuate any of the patients, and so they're like, fuck. Somehow it gets out that he was the one responsible for that, and so it's like, if you were doing something like that, you must be crazy. Therefore, we're going to keep you here. But if you acquiesce and just take the medication and become a vegetable in there, they're like, well, yeah, I see he clearly belongs here. Because so like it's like there's no escape. There is no way out of this situation.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it took him about 3 months. His family's had to advocate for him like super heavily, and whatever. And he's doing so much better through a variety of different modalities, but psychedelic therapy was one of them. Um, but anyway, I was kind of using that story as a segue to transition into our little conspiracy corner, because I think, especially after what happened with the wildfires up in LA, and there's also the United Health CEO assassination. We're kind of getting waking up as a collective to realize that these people and institutions that we thought are there to take care of us, they don't give a shit about you, and they are actively, in many cases, trying to work against your best interest. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely, 100%. Um, I mean, we know, like, especially in health insurance, medical care world, like, you are a bottom line. You're not a person, you're not a patient, you're not a human. You are a bill and and a uh what do you call it? An invoice number. Like,
Yeah,
we
right.
we know that. The VA is really bad with it. Like, I'll give the VA in some wiggle room in that they are severely understaffed, but at the same time, it is the second largest department of the United States government next to the Department of Defense.
Mhm.
Now, how the DoD is bigger than the Department of Veterans Affairs, to me
Right,
that's backwards, because we're
right.
producing far more veterans a day than we've got service members coming in. And I understand budget,
Mm.
airplanes, Navy ships, whatever, but like, taking care of the veterans that you're creating should be priority number one.
Yeah.
Because not only that, but like, you're mistreating like the most capable demographic in your country to
Right.
to promote like a government overthrow or a coup d'état. you
Right,
know.
right,
Um,
right. Well,
but
there was the Livels Matt Livelsberger guy. I don't know if I'm getting his name wrong, but he was
yeah, yeah, yeah,
the Tesla
yeah,
truck bombing, and then
yeah,
allegedly his manifesto or something came out, and but it was his main point, if I'm remembering it correctly, is largely is that like Americans, this is not a terrorist attack, but this is I'm trying to bring attention to
yeah.
something, and American public violence and spectacle is the only way to like reach people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that one too, like, you could totally break it down, right? Like, that guy was like a 27-year Army Special Forces Green Beret. And what did he do? He rolled up in a Tesla truck, which are
Yeah,
bulletproof,
like a
full
bulletproof
of
truck.
fireworks, not explosives. Supposedly, he shot himself in the head with a 50 caliber Desert Eagle
Yeah.
before clacking off all the fireworks in the truck. The thing is, though, is that fireworks in the truck, he knew that with that vehicle being bulletproof, it can stop a 9 millimeter bullet. Um, there was not going to be a lot of spalding or shrapnel or explosive debris moving outside. It's fireworks, right? Now, yeah, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
fireworks can do some shit, but it's not like he made HME, homemade explosives.
Right.
Two, like, somehow they say he shot himself in the head, even though there's no audio, there's no indication via cameras, there's no muzzle flash in the window of when the vehicle is parked there. Nobody heard any type of signature of gunfire or a gunshot that were witnesses that were in the area. No, you would hear a Desert Eagle clack off, dude.
Right. You would
Um,
see the flash. It's a fucking
yes.
massive fireball
You'd
at the
see,
end of that.
yeah, you'd see the muzzle flash through the
Oh,
windows in the street cameras, and then the body was burned beyond all recognition. However, his military ID survived the
always,
fire, and they were able to
always.
identify him via his tattoos. But he was burned beyond all recognition. Um,
Wow, I did.
so I
That's an
mean,
interesting detail. I didn't know.
yeah, that one, yeah, they had said on the news that they were able to identify that it was him because of the tattoos on his right arm. And they showed a picture of the tattoos of like his arm.
Uh-huh.
But it was like, you said he was burned beyond all
Right.
recognition, and somehow
And his
you
right
identify.
arm would be closer to the explosion as well, like relative to
Yeah.
your left arm, which
Well,
maybe you can make the argument between the door or something like that.
honestly, it was very indicative of. Sorry, dude. People are gonna get really upset about this one, but the fact that, like, two airplanes fly into the World Trade Center and everything becomes rubble and dust except for the
Their
terrorists'
passport.
passports.
Yeah, yeah,
But we're,
th-
huh, mm, uh,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't trust the government. I mean, but I mean, the idea and the conspiracy of a one world government, a new world order goes way back. John F. Kennedy did a speech on it on public television about the New World Order. You know,
Mhm.
Eisenhower and Truman warned us about the military industrial complex. Um, and it's biblical. The book of Revelation talks about there will be a one world government. And
Mm.
that's when Satan comes and rules the earth. And it's, I mean, all throughout history, governments have at some point or another taken advantage of their citizens and start doing more harm than good until the citizens rise up and tell the government we're not going to do this anymore. And I'm not sitting here
Right.
promoting we should revolt or coup d'etat, but I'm just saying that like these things have happened all throughout history as long as we have had some sort of authority and power over
Totally.
us.
Dude, I think the TikTok ban may have something to do with that as well, because it's a channel that 170 million people are on daily, that is more difficult for the US government to put their thumb on that scale and control what gets
100%.
said, what gets relative to like Meta, Instagram,
100%.
Twitter. And we just found that out. I mean, we found it out a while ago, but like Mark Zuckerberg just went on Rogan and was talking about how
Yeah.
during COVID, the Biden administration was, telling them, oh, they can't say that. They can't, we don't want people to be hesitant to take the vaccine. Okay, so the government, it's not about like the national security threat is that the government can't control directly what we see on there and influence it in the same way. Now the Chinese government can, yeah, for sure, but I mean, why aren't they having the same issue with Timu? They can get all the
Yeah.
fucking, it's a Chinese app,
Yeah.
millions of people shop on, there's a ton of fucking data that is on there. Why aren't they locking that up? Because they don't care. It's about controlling the message,
Because they can't control it. Because they
Yeah.
can't control it because
Yeah.
it's a foreign owned entity. And me
Right.
personally, like I used to be like, yeah, dude, ban TikTok because China is degrading our youth. And then
Right.
that turned out to not be true. The whole thing that like people were saying that like China's TikTok algorithm
Okay.
promotes engineering and science and the American one promotes stupid dances and it's like no, dude, Americans have been falling down that path for a while. Like
Yeah.
we're
Right.
lazy, we're stupid, we're complacent. That's life in Western civilization.
Yeah.
We were
Right.
doing that shit back with MySpace, bro. Like
Right. Right.
that
Right.
like TikTok's nothing new, but they can't put their thumb on there the way they
Mhm.
can with Meta and
Yeah.
Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and it's all about it's government control. Which honestly like I'm super stoked Trump is coming back, but at the same time like all of this talk about like acquiring Greenland and acquiring
Yeah. I was thinking about that.
Canada,
Mexico. Yeah.
like that, yeah, that honestly, like, wait a minute, we were just talking about shrinking government and leaning it out, and now you're talking about expanding it globally even greater. Not into
Right.
it. Plus, if America starts taking over countries like that, I mean, we're moving even closer to the New World Order and the one world
Yeah.
government.
Right.
And
Right.
then the return of Jesus and the book of
It's
Revelation.
right around the corner. Yeah.
You know,
The other one is, that it's so we had talked about this like briefly. I'm kind of trying to shoehorn it in here, but it's relevant and interesting. Is with the wildfires, with all of these, there's so many things that have happened in the past like 12 to 18 months that always get chalked up to just like incompetence. Like it's just a series of factors and it's always coincidences. And it's just like, yeah, I mean, these things aren't impossible, but it's like the MO becomes weaponized incompetence. No one's going to tell you, hey, this is the conspiracy we're doing. Like, fuck you. You know, they're going to make it look like it's just these are the things that can happen. They're all possible, you know, and it's just like, oh, everyone dropped the ball. We didn't clean the you know, brush for X, Y, and Z reason. The cover was gone. This was done. We didn't have enough firefighters. The budget was cut. You know what I mean? Like all very mundane explanations, but they're all stacking them together. And then you sent me that thing showing the railway over where the fire burns. Fucking go off.
Yeah. I mean, it. All right. Like to be honest, like go deep into the woods. It's a blood cult. Um, it's a blood cult, and it's all satanic. And part of that karmic law states that they have to tell you what their intentions are, um, and what evil they're going to do to you. That way, it's not a surprise, and you can't be a victim. You've been warned.
Sure.
And
Right.
we have put
You're
that
complicit.
has been the case. That has been the case for every major catastrophe that we've done. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, you look at COVID-19. They ran a full-scale simulation of a global pandemic that came out
Sure.
of China in it 2 years prior. And they had
Mhm.
planned that it was going to happen at the end of 2019 and 2020. And lo and behold, the whole thing worked out exactly how they had simulated. Um, Prior to the World Trade Center, they were running simulation drills on airplanes being hijacked flying into the World Trade Center. Um, in
Like
terms
on the
of
same
like
day. On like that
on the
fucking
same,
day,
yeah,
they were running like,
yes.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
when you look at other, like you look at these wildfires, right? Um, this is California. We've been dealing with wildfires for as long as California's been a thing. This whole environmentalism, and we can't do prescribed burns, and the truth is, if the environmental movement was truly environmental, it would be a back to nature approach instead of a technological approach.
Sure.
Everything in advancing technology is so detrimental to the environment. Here we are,
hmm
you and I, speaking on this computer,
hmm
probably 30, 40 miles away, right? And
hmm
we think that this is a massive advancement in technology. But
Right.
in order for us to get raw materials to build this computer, there are people in a third world country in flip flops that have a
Yeah.
garden trowel digging in dirt for rocks to make the
hmm
power to create this technology. At the end of the day, it's all technology is a big facade to make us think we are more powerful and advanced than we actually are. At the end of the day, we still got to dig in the dirt to get the materials to build this shit.
Right.
So, I mean,
Well, it's what we
advancing
said
technology,
earlier. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
huh? I was
No,
just say
I was just,
advancing technology, which so the wildfires, right? We know
yeah.
LA, California has this thing for 15-minute cities. And now they're calling them smart cities because
Smart. Yeah.
people caught on and didn't like the idea of a 15-minute city. Which a 15-minute city is they create these bubbles where all of your necessities and needs are within 15 minutes of walking or riding a bicycle. Cars don't need to exist in these areas. You don't have to order anything. You can walk. You live in a bubble. Now we're calling them smart cities because now we're implementing AI technology. You go downtown San Diego and you're seeing like on all of the light posts, there's cameras with audio recordings. They're videotaping you all the time, facial recognition. China's doing this using facial recognition in public to develop social credit scores. Um, and we're calling it all in the name of safety, security, and environmentalism. But the truth is, it's pure evil.
Control. It's
Um,
control,
it's
man.
evil.
Surveillance, control.
It's
It's evil.
control.
Right. Right.
It takes all of the autonomy away from the individual.
Yeah.
And if you look at how advanced we are in technology now, yes, we have significantly advanced in technology. However, we are so vulnerable. We are more vulnerable to extinction as a human race now than we've
Mm,
ever been before. Why?
mm,
Because if the grid went down, if the internet turned off,
mhm.
how
Yeah,
many people do you know can survive the way we used to? I don't
right.
know very many people that could procure their own food in any way. Can't grow a damn onion or a potato, let alone go actually hunt. And God forbid
Yeah.
you have to hunt here in San Diego County. We have the lowest percentage success rate of deer hunting in the entire country.
Oh
We have a
shit, no way.
7%. Yes, this is San Diego County, D16 is the most
Mm,
difficult place to fill a deer tag in the country. Um,
wow.
so good luck.
Well, and did
Uh,
warfare become more like ethical as technology
no,
advanced?
it's
I mean, look
become
at
less
Ukraine.
ethical.
Yeah,
It's become
yeah,
way less ethical.
right,
And
right.
even to the point where like now I remember back in the early days of the war in Iraq when they were cutting off Americans' heads. And I
Mm.
remember this is back in the days of I don't know if you remember Kazaa
Oh yeah,
which was
yeah.
a
The
music
music thing.
downloading.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it was called Kazaa. And Kazaa, like we found out, like you were just downloading viruses by the dozen. But Kazaa, you could find everything. And I remember, like, you were able to find the videos of Americans
Oh wow.
getting beheaded on Kazaa. And there was like that kind of stuff on the internet was
Yeah.
was illegal at the time. Like
Ah.
you could not post death and murder on the internet. Even
Oh, I
internet
see.
pornography was
Mm.
still not cool by any means.
Mhm.
And dude, just today at work, one of the dudes at work was watching a compilation of drone kills on Russian soldiers from Ukraine. Like you're watching drones and you see the point detonating fuse and they're just flying into dudes and black. And you're seeing their face. Like now things have become way less ethical.
Yeah.
Now we're watching people get murdered, murdered for entertainment. Internet
Murder.
pornography is rampant through the world and society. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole nother thing, but interesting fact, the internet advanced the as much as it has and as quickly as it did because of internet pornography.
Mm-hmm.
They
Right.
actually they actually proved that when as the internet became more available to the public, internet pornography searches increased dramatically, and the internet was the demand for higher quality internet porn was driving the advancement of internet technology and video
Right.
streaming.
And video stuff too,
um
like HD and like
yes, everything is
like
all
those
because of
higher
porn,
definition stuff. It's all because of porn. I've heard that too.
all
Yeah.
because of
Yeah.
porn,
And then I
which
remember when the first like VR augmented reality type stuff, like what was some of the first
yeah,
applications? Porn. Porn moves
yeah,
that
oh
needle.
yeah, I mean, and that's it's inherent to man, lust, one of the hardest things for people to it's the easiest to be tempted by and the hardest temptation to fight, right? Like
Mm,
having wanting sex is inherent
right.
to being a human being, wanting
Yeah.
to reproduce, to procreate. I mean, that at its core is what it is, but
Yeah.
we've completely defiled the act to just like everybody's um fucking everybody and while everybody's watching. um but with technology and these smart cities, like you look at LA, I mean, dude, the writing's on the wall and they're saying
Yeah.
the quiet part out loud.
Yeah. I know. That's what's
Gavin
crazy.
Newsom is openly talking about changing land use over the Pacific Palisades.
He's talking about how he just got off the phone with the governor of Hawaii, and then they're
Yes,
talking about changing the land. He's
which
kind of like laughing about it. I'm like, dude, like what the fuck?
you go to Hawaii, right? And so on Maui, like developers are building multi-unit houses over areas that were burned down, but people
Yeah.
still haven't been paid out by their insurance companies.
Mm,
Like the you and me's that lost their home over there
yeah.
still have
Yeah.
gotten
I'm still
nothing.
waiting.
Um, Meanwhile, developers are coming in and buying land up from under people.
Pennies on the dollar,
And
you know.
yeah, pennies on the dollar. I mean, Newsom said it out loud, and everybody was calling it from the beginning. Like,
Hmm.
I live out here in the rural area.
Hmm.
I'm on what's called the California Fair Plan. California Fair Plan is a backup home insurance, fire insurance for people that insurance companies won't insure you because you're in a high wildfire risk area. The
Hmm.
entire state of California is a high wildfire risk area, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But so I cannot get actual home insurance. I use California Fair Plan. What California did was because insurance companies wouldn't give fire insurance, they make all the insurance companies pool into this pot, and that's what they pay it out of.
Hmm.
Well, within the last year, I think a total of 2.6 million customers in the state of California have been dropped from their home insurance because California also ruined it, right?
Yeah.
California, we drove the housing market and home values through the roof after COVID. When
Hmm.
we made borrowing money super cheap.
Hmm.
Interest rates were down. I got in at 2.25. Like interest rates were super low. So we're giving
Yeah.
out all this free money. We're driving up the value of homes. But then the state of California said insurance companies are not allowed to charge on insurance based on the value of the home. We're going to put a cap to it. Well,
Hmm.
you're going to insure this home with a cap at a $400,000 value, but the state just raised the value of the home to 750. That
Hmm.
doesn't make sense. They're losing money. So
Right.
insurance companies left, dropped everyone. 72,000 customers were dropped just within like 2 months of these wildfires.
Pause right there because I
That
want to. I want to pause for a second because I want to just double down on something that you said that's super important because it's important for people to understand what you just said. Um, because it creates this feedback loop. So people go, these greedy insurance companies, can you believe that they dropped all these people, right a year before the fire was going to go. So they're pissed off at the greedy corporations, which I get it. Who the fuck likes insurance companies? So then California, they go to their elected officials and say, do something about this. So what does California do? They double down with even more restrictions. Maybe we need to make that cap even lower. Maybe we mandate that. So they're creating the insurance problem where the insurance companies are going like, well, then we have no other option but to leave. So sorry to throw you off your
yes.
flow, but I just wanted
No,
to
you're
double
good.
click on that because that's super
You
important
bring
and a very
up
nuanced fact.
you bring up an excellent point because this entire problem was caused by the state of California, right? It's
Yeah.
not like it came as a surprise overnight that the insurance companies were going to leave and stop doing business in the state. Like California, like they give plenty of fair warning to California. Look, if you don't lighten up, we're not going to do business here. It's the same that Elon did with SpaceX. Hey, if
Mhm.
you keep going this way, I'm moving out of here. I'm going to Texas. We
Yeah.
saw it during the pandemic how many big
Right.
corporations, how many wealthy people left the state. California caused this catastrophe, right? And I'm going to speculate that it wasn't by accident because here's what happens. The Federal Department of Insurance looked into the California Fair Plan. And this article came out March of last year.
Mhm.
Um, what they found. So so people like me who can't get insured by a regular insurance company because of where I'm at, or let's say my State Farm left the state and nobody else will take me on, I go to California Fair Plan. I am insured by the state of California that if my home burns down, they'll rebuild and they'll pay me out, right? The
Mm-hmm.
problem, the way the California Fair Plan works is it is only responsible for rebuilding the structure itself. So it's not like a normal homeowner's policy where it covers everything in the
Stuff.
confines of your property, your home, all of your stuff, all of your property.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
only covers the cost to rebuild the structure itself. So then we're forced to take out a second insurance policy to cover all of our property and everything else. This article that came out March of last year found that the California Fair Plan intentionally underinsures its clients below the state's minimum standards of insurance coverage. So, by what
Mm-hmm.
the state was legally forcing insurance companies as a minimum to cover their clients, the state of California purposely covers below that standard. And the
So
state
they
of
have to take out
California.
that second policy. Is that the
No,
motivation?
no, 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 no. This is separate because California Fair
Yeah.
Plan won't insure all of your stuff. They're just going to insure your
Right.
dwelling. It's a dwelling
Right. Right.
policy. If your house burns down, we'll rebuild your house, but either you got to replace or have a different policy for your stuff. But they are underinsuring that policy to rebuild your home. So let's say, the insurance company on my home, they take the square footage, year it was built, material it's built out of, and they say it'll cost you $200,000 in the state of California in 2024 to rebuild your home. Well, the state of California through California Fair Plan is only insuring me to $170,000 in value to rebuild my home, which means if
Mm.
my home burnt down, I wouldn't. The insurance that the state is forcing me to use doesn't cover the entire cost to rebuild.
Wow.
And there's a lawsuit that came out in June of 2024 suing the California Fair Plan. And that's when the Federal Department of Insurance found that California decided it is cheaper for them to pay a misdemeanor fine for the 400 plus thousand individuals they cover than for them to actually insure us up to the standard that the state legally requires. So
Wow.
this is the state of California basically driving out all insurance companies, forcing us to take up the state's insurance policy that knowingly and admittingly underinsures us below the state's own legal standard. And
Hmm.
then in July, I think it was June or July, actually Gavin Newsom and the state of California, there's another article that published that said if there was one single disaster in the state of California would completely bankrupt the California Fair Plan. Well, guess what?
Right.
The wealthiest community in the state of California just burned down, and majority of those people were on the California Fair Plan. You have just
Mm-hmm.
bankrupted the state's entire insurance company.
Right. Wow.
And now here we are, and Newsom's already talking about changing land use policies for the area because they know that many of these people, well, he knows if they have insurance, they're underinsured.
Yeah.
And
Right.
two, they don't have any insurance. And I don't
Right.
care if you're worth 50 million. I highly doubt you've got 11, 12 million dollars in cash sitting around that you can
Right.
pull out to then rebuild your home. Like
Right.
people are going to have to sell for pennies on the dollar
Mm-hmm.
because they're still going to be forced to pay property tax on land that's burned down with no dwelling.
The
And we've already
existing
increased the value.
policies are 4 times as expensive as they were if you even were lucky enough to have it in the first place.
Yeah.
And if you had total just
And
fuck you money and you were just like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. I love my plot. I love the view I had. I'm just gonna do it. And I have so much money down. It's still gonna take you 5 years. You're not.
yeah.
What are you gonna do
And
for
what
the
people
next
don't
5 years?
realize,
You know.
And what people don't realize too is like a lot of people living in the Pacific Palisades, like they weren't all like the Mel Gibsons and
Right.
Oprah Winfrey's. Like there was a lot of older neighborhoods and communities there
Mm-hmm.
where people like our grandparents or our parents like bought in early and that home's
Mm-hmm.
been passed down for generations. Yeah, now
Yeah.
it's worth $2-3 million, but that guy doesn't
Right.
have $2-3 million to rebuild that home. He
Yeah.
was living in a home that was completely paid off that he
Mm-hmm.
grew up in and was handed to him. There, like Pacific Palisades is not just a new, you know, yuppie Mega Million neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
It's got all kinds of people living there.
Right.
Um,
Right.
Even where I grew up in Yorba Linda, we were in one of the first communities built on that side of town in '87. But by 2005, there was $4 or $5 million homes being built on the hill above us, and
Mm.
we were by no means in that same level of class.
Right.
What like our home was built in '87, dude. Like these people were there were rumors that Schwarzenegger was moving in up the hill from me because
Yeah. Oh,
there
wow.
were mansions being built. But
Uh.
it's like a lot of people were getting screwed. Those kinds of people aren't going to be able to
Right.
aren't going they're out of luck. Um,
Yeah.
and then when you look at
Right.
the map of the way the fires in California have been burning and the projected um, route plan for the high-speed bullet train that we're now $100 billion over budget, and all they've been able to build is like 200 yards of track
Mm-hmm.
um, over the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's crazy.
that's why, like, I started saying that, like, San Diego's next because on the San Diego website, we are projected to become a smart city. Um,
Right. Well, the
and
biggest like
we know,
thorn in the side of the smart city plan is that it's really expensive and in some ways like not even really possible to retrofit urban sprawl for 15-minute smart cities, like
and
especially
you
LA.
can't
It's like it's
retrofit.
impossible.
That's the thing. You can't retrofit. You have to build from scratch.
Hmm.
And that's why, like, Maui was completely burned down, and Maui was on the list. Like Maui claimed, we are going to be the first smart city. Um,
Oh
LA
wow.
wants to
Wow.
be, yeah. Maui said we are going to be the first smart city, and
Mm-hmm.
coincidentally, they burned down. LA has been wanting to become a smart city before they host the Olympics in 2028.
Hmm. Hmm.
Coincidentally,
It
started
worked out for them.
2025, all oh yeah, burnt down, and now we're already talking about rezoning these areas to turn into a smart city. LA 2.0, as Gavin calls it. He used the term "we have a Marshall Plan." A Marshall
Hmm.
Plan was the euphemism used by Europe during World War II to rebuild Europe. Like we have a collective governmental plan on how we're going to rebuild this. Um,
Yeah. Like, well, that's
I
good because
mean,
there's still ashes smoldering behind you. I'm glad that you guys already have a plan, almost like you had a plan before, and
dude,
these two,
no
you know,
remorse.
right?
No remorse, no compassion. Like, dude, I'm
Mm-hmm.
still getting updates on my phone. I have this app called Watch Duty app. It's
Mm.
100% funded. It's a nonprofit. It's ran by firefighters, and I get pings anytime. I can choose whatever counties to follow, and I get notifications whenever Cal Fire or
Oh,
the fire department's putting out updates to the public. Dude, the
interesting.
Palisades, man, they're still fighting that fire. And Newsom's
Wow.
already talking about how he's going to rebuild and has a new plan for it. Like, there's no remorse, dude. Joe Biden came out and said you get a one-time payment of
Yeah.
$770.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
go fuck yourself. Go
and they did
fuck
it.
your.
They did it
Meanwhile,
out in North Carolina. They did it in Florida. You
yeah.
know, they did.
Oh, and the
They
one
were
in
just
North
seeing it.
Carolina was a one-time $750 loan. That wasn't
Loan.
even a payment. People people were taking it. You had to sign a form, terms and conditions, right? People were signing it to get the 750. Then they read the terms and conditions. It was putting the title to your property as collateral to that $750 loan.
Oh my God. So there's going to be people who don't pay the $700 back and they lose their home because of the. Wow.
Yes. Tell me that's not a land grab.
Yeah, I mean, come on, dude. Like at some point, it's like it's the mental gymnastics of like not calling a spade because they don't want to like that's conspiracy talk. I mean,
Yeah.
fortunately, it does seem like it. And my girlfriend the other day, she's like, I used to think a lot of conspiracies were like crazy and bullshit, and now she's like, I don't even know if there's anything that I would categorically rule out as a possibility. you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, here's the thing, man. Like, it's going to get much worse. It's going to get much scarier. But going to what you said of like, how do you stay sane during
Yeah.
this and understand, like, look, because it's very easy to lose your sanity and like through this, right? Just super anxious, stressing out about everything. I got to prep. There's no way I've got it enough to survive. I need to buy this, I need to buy that. Like,
Yeah.
here's what I say, and here's what helps me. And this comes back to faith. Is we live in a fallen world, okay? Evil walks this earth. Satan rules the earth. Okay? And we know the look, humans are fallible creatures. We have been fucking up since we were created. That was from a faith point of perspective. Adam and Eve were the first humans. They've been sinning since they were humans, right? We fuck up. But we also know evil exists. Evil walks this earth. The whole point of evil, right, is to destroy. Evil destroys everything unto itself, meaning if you look at disease, parasites, right? Think of evil as a parasite. Evil as an energetic thing, let's say, is thriving off of the earth and human beings. Okay? What's a parasite do? A parasite gets its host so sick and ill until it dies. Well, then what happens? That parasite has to either find a new host or the parasite dies. Evil in itself is designed and created to destroy everything unto itself, ultimately destroying itself. We know evil is out there. Things are going to get much worse, but at the end of the day, evil loses and truth and righteousness prevail. I'm just going to read something really quick. This is what I turn to when, instead of fearing about these things, right? So when I look at everything going on in the world today, a lot of it is prophetic. You can go in the Bible, you can look in the book of Isaiah, you can read the book of Revelation. There's a lot of things that are happening that have never happened in history before. They're happening now that are fulfilling prophecies. Jerusalem is a city again. Damascus has fallen. I'm not a huge prophecy expert, but there are things happening. And even still, now, we will never know the hour or the day when Jesus comes back and the apocalypse happens and the, revelation, people get taken. We don't know when that's going to happen. We don't know the hour of the day, but we know what generation that's going to happen in. And we know this world's going to get much darker. Put faith aside, dude. Just look at the direction of it. Yeah, wars are happening more often. There's a lot more world hunger than there's ever been. We're creating more food. It's just things are going to get really bad and really weird. What I go to is Book of Revelation, chapter 20, verse 7. So it says, now what this says is, I'm not going to go in it. I'm just going to read it. When the 1,000 years have expired, Satan will be released from prison. So where we're at, Jesus returns. Satan gets chained up, and put into hell for 1,000 years. After 1,000 years of righteousness and truth, positivity and love coming back into the world for 1,000 years, evil's got to come out and walk the earth a little bit. So that's where we're at. Chapter 20, verse 7. Now, when the 1,000 years have expired, Satan will be released from prison. He'll go out to deceive the nations which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, whose number is as the sand of the sea. It says Satan, the devil, is going to go out and he's going to gather all of the forces of the nations across all four corners of the earth, and he's going to bring them to attack the New Jerusalem, which is heaven on earth, right? They went up on the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of the saints in the beloved city. This is the new kingdom of Jerusalem that Jesus has returned, and he is ruling over all nations. Satan gets released, and he gathers an army and says, we're going to go defeat all of the holy people in the new city of Jerusalem. They went up on the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of the saints and the beloved city. And fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. The devil who deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone where the beast and the false prophet are, and they will be tormented night and day forever and ever. What this is saying is like, things are going to get dark and things are going to get weird and they're going to get scary. But at the end of the day, at the end of it all, righteousness prevails. Evil never prospers. And we know that.
Right.
Evil never prospers. We look at every conspiracy and hoax that has come out against our government, and the truth has come out, and the truth prospers. Was there a Russian collusion conspiracy? No, we turned out that was all fake. Did people really not know that the U.S. embassy was being overran in
Benghazi? Benghazi?
Brain fault, Benghazi. Sorry, dude. I was gonna keep wanting to say Gaza because we're there now, but no, we know that Hillary was still was not aiding people. She wasn't calling the shots like she was supposed to.
Right.
The truth comes out. The truth prevails, and so what I say is, your greatest preparation for whatever bad shit is maybe coming. Prepare your soul first, because one, nobody gets out of this world alive. No matter what, nobody gets out of this world alive. Whatever happens here will stay here. So the best thing you can do, prepare your soul and prepare for whatever happens next. Do we know for sure there's a heaven? I believe there is. Do we know for sure there's not? No. Do we know what happens after you die? Not scientifically, but whatever happens here is temporary. Everything on this earth and in this life is temporary and will fall ill to rust and degradation from moths, as Jesus says. You have faith, you believe in a God that will take care of you, believe in truth, believe in love, believe in righteousness. The rest of this, it will just roll off your back like water on a duck. There is no evil, there is no force of evil that can prevail over good and love and truth. Sometimes it takes time. It may take time for the truth to prevail, but it always prevails. And that's because, sometimes I post some wild shit on Instagram and I get people I have a close friend. She's like, look, I believe everything you're saying. What do I do? How do I prepare? When do I know to leave my house? What should I pack? What should I be stocking up? And, I tell her you can do this and prep for that. But at the end of the day, God is on your side. And if God is for us, who can be against us? Because if people believe in evil, how do you believe in evil and not believe in a good and not believe in a God?
Yeah.
How do you not believe in righteousness? So if you do know that evil exists, well, there has to be a counter to that. Goodness and righteousness.
That was kind of way I approximated my way through it, dude, was that is like,
And
I'm always intrigued by like, the fascination by the darkness of out there. And then when you kind of look into to that abyss long enough, you start realizing like it's a real thing. Like and if it's a real thing, then there has to be a counter weight to that. And in which case, like, I don't know, that kind of, there's your ontology right there. The world is
yeah,
this way
Satan and
because,
evil are real. Satan and evil are
yeah.
real. We like it's so
Mhm.
prevalent in society in our culture today.
Right.
And
Right.
like I'm not I'm not trying to push anything on anybody, but I do think it's worthwhile to ponder why is Christianity the most attacked of all of the religions? Why is there no restriction against Hinduism or Buddhism or even Islam? We're always protecting Islam in
Mhm.
America, but we're always attacking Christianity and we're attacking God and we're attacking Jesus. And if you believe in an evil and a dark force, you have to believe in a light and a positive force. And if you put
Mhm.
your energy and focus on that, evil has no power over you. Evil
Mhm.
has no power. The reason why I wanted to read that passage is because that passage says that evil will be destroyed and tormented forever and ever. That is,
Mhm.
Satan will be chained up and thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur and be tormented day and night for all eternity. What that tells you is that evil has already lost
Mhm.
and it has no power over you other than the power you give it. When you
Mhm.
start feeling fear, when you start feeling anxiety, when you get into episodes of anger or rage or depression, I call these spiritual attacks because
Mhm.
none of these things are positive or pointing me towards God, or God is not giving me anger or depression. But what
Mhm.
happens when I focus on that anxiety, when I focus on that depression, when I
Mhm.
focus on anger, I
You're
am no
giving it
longer
power.
focusing on the good.
Yeah.
I'm giving
Right.
power to these negative
Yeah.
things.
Right.
And you're just ruminating on negativity. And that's why, gratitude. How important is gratitude and how can
Mhm.
that be so changing in your life?
You
Tony
really can.
Robbins, even Andrew Tate, like his name's Brad something. Everybody talks about gratitude. Deepak
Mhm.
Chopra, like everybody's on gratitude because you cannot be grateful and anxious at the same time. It works
Mhm.
in the same part of your brain. And as long as you focus on these negative emotions, you're not focusing on the positive and you're giving power to the negativity in your life. And evil negativity, it's already lost. It's a defeated foe. Whether you want to call it Satan, the devil, spiritual attacks, what or just bad vibes, dude, bad vibes already lost. Like bad
Mhm.
vibes never win at anything. And the
Mhm.
bad vibes will always be bad vibes as long as you put attention to it.
Yeah. Right.
Well, it's about not focusing on the fact that you're being attacked, but like we talked about earlier, um, celebrating your tribulations and your trials because it
Yeah.
builds character.
Right.
Hey, man, this world's going to get weird and dark and ugly. You know what? Bring it on because I know evil will not prevail. And
Mm.
even if I die fighting, hey, I died in positivity and I died in love and the truth will come out, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Right. You made
gratitude.
yourself
It's
right
gratitude and
with
love.
God, man. The closest I've ever felt
Yeah.
like to divine sort of like connection has been in states of gratitude. Like it's just been like, tears come out of my eyes, like
Absolutely.
so thankful for the opportunity to do this or to see this or to, you know what I mean? Like that's when it's a real thing, man.
I mean, that's why on psychedelic experiences, people a lot of times, very common to have a spiritual experience on psychedelics because it's so heart opening and
Mm-hmm.
the bullshit is washing
Mm-hmm.
away. You're getting the feel good chemicals in your brain. you're get oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, you're feeling good. You're finally in a place where like I can focus on gratitude and I can open
Mm-hmm.
my heart up. And what
Mm.
that is, then people have this spiritual experience, and
Right.
it really just comes down because you're not thinking about the bad stuff anymore.
Mhm. Yeah.
You're focusing on the
Yeah.
positivity.
Yeah, dude.
So I mean, yeah, you know, evil has always existed. It will exist for a lot longer, but everything is truth and love, man. Truth,
Truth
love, and
and love,
gratitude.
dude.
Like
I love that, dude. That's
truth
such a
and love.
good kind of place to tie a bow on it. Um, this was such a good conversation, man. I'm so stoked. This is why you're a Wind and Sea ambassador, dude. You're bringing the good vibes, the right fucking stuff to kind of like set your mind ready for the trials and tribulations of the future, man. So it's been a pleasure getting to know you better, and like I'm just stoked that you're my friend, dude. So do you want to
Appreciate it.
have any
I
final
appreciate
little?
you.
Yeah, dude, of
Yeah,
course.
dude.
Is there any sort of
I
final
almost
notes
want to
you want
say
to
like,
just tie it up?
yeah, I want to say like how much I appreciate you. Like for people who don't know, like in Los Pagotes early days, like we built up kind of a pretty good network of a lot of local companies, and that was what we wanted to do was start bringing everybody up with us because
Mm.
the reason why Los Pagotes isn't around anymore was because it grew way beyond our means to keep up, well, especially with three of us still active duty, on deployment cycles, out of the country. We couldn't do it. It was getting to the point where it was more stressful than fun. But in all of that growth, Wind and Sea Coffee was a huge supporter of ours. Um, you really did. You supported us. You promoted us. When we started doing subscription boxes, you were throwing your coffee in our boxes. You even took the CBD out of it because we are like, the military customers are going to freak out.
Yeah, yeah.
And honestly, man, then when you approached me and you're like, I'd love for you to be ambassador, I was like, dude, there's no better way for me to say thank you and repay you. And also like totally honored because I love what you're doing with Wind and Sea Coffee, which we didn't even talk about. But man,
Oh, dude, I talk about
for
it
those of you who
plenty.
haven't checked it out, I'm gonna throw the plug in now, dude, because you
Hell
didn't.
yeah. Yeah, do it for me.
For those of you like we were talking about mushrooms and stuff, like why I love Wind and Sea Coffee's products so much better and more than other ones I've tried. I've done mud water. I've bought my own functional mushroom powders. I've done the micro. The the thing is like you have an extract of those powders of those mushrooms, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not
Mm-hmm.
using, you're not taking the mushroom and just grinding it into a powder.
Right.
You're getting an
Right.
extraction of it, right? And how is it? Is that
Mhm.
like a
Yeah.
distillation
It's
process, or
so
is it being
it's
distilled out
a
there, or
there are for my coffee it's a triple extraction, which is a distillate. It's a glycerin
yeah,
based distillate. For the powders, they're double
okay,
extracted. And I'm not exactly sure how they extract it, but you're right. That's kind of the point, is that like if you just dry the mushroom and
yeah,
grind it, there's a lot of like cell walls that your body has to go through to get the good stuff out of it. And so
yes.
yeah, you get more bioavailability is the term,
Yes, yes, dude. And that's what I'm getting at. Your products, with them being extractions like that, your body's not having to break down, metabolize this physical substance and
Yeah,
sustenance, and then
right.
only a portion of that makes it into the blood-brain barrier to be
Mm-hmm.
bioavailable for your body. Like yours is an extraction, so when it goes in my coffee, it liquefies. I'm drinking it, it's readily absorbable, and I'm
Yeah,
getting full Benny from it, and I can
right.
feel the difference on your products. And I've done,
That's awesome.
dude, Laird Superfoods has nothing on you. Mudwater has nothing on you. Um, I've even bought the organic lion's mane reishi chaga mushroom powders, put them in my coffee myself.
Not
Nothing
the
on
same.
you.
That's good to know.
Not the
That's good to
same,
know,
dude.
dude.
I
Love that.
I've tried them all. I've given them all like several weeks to month trials,
Yeah,
and
right, right.
yours immediately from the first time I used it, noticed a big difference above and beyond all of those. And this is not a paid
Oh,
advertisement. I've gotten like
no.
2 free bags of coffee from the guy. Like, I'm just
Full
saying,
disclosure.
I I I have used it, and as somebody who has been in and exploring that for several years now, hands down, you've got the highest quality product I've tried.
That is means a lot to hear, dude. I mean, I take a lot of pride in putting it out, and I want to make things for especially veterans. You know what I mean? Like this is my community. These are people that I care about, and I so it really means a lot to hear that from you, man. Brandon,
I
this has been
actually, another
amazing.
shameless plug.
Oh, good. Yeah.
I'll
No, go
say
ahead. Go
another
ahead. There's a
shameless
little bit
plug.
of a
I
lag, so it's like a delay a little bit.
oh,
There's like a slight delay.
it's
But go
pro
ahead. Go.
it's my Wi-Fi. It's my Wi-Fi. I'm in the country. Um, I actually drank the Loco Mocha in my coffee before we filmed this. I was drinking when I was drinking my coffee. That's what I was having was the
Sick.
Loco Mocha.
Oh,
Um,
dude.
yeah, dude.
Thanks for the support,
I just
brother.
want to say thank
I
you. Thank
oh,
you.
it's a pleasure. It's dude,
This was a fun
it's a
talk.
team sport, man. It's a team
Yeah,
sport. So
yeah. This was fun.
cool.
I'm probably gonna get a lot of weird looks from anybody who listens to this, but
No, this is
I
great,
don't care,
dude.
dude.
Like this,
Speaking
I think
truth.
it actually like weaves together nicely. Like we actually hit all the little wickets that we had set out, and it
Yeah,
was good. But
for
let me
sure.
hit stop real quick just so I can wrap
Yeah.
this, and then let's. Anyway, this has been the Mind Body Mushroom. Thank you guys so much for cruising by, and yeah, we'll stay tuned for next week. Love, love, baby. Woo, dope, dude.